A lot of new rules this year, some of them involving the kickoff. We'll get to each of them as they apply to the game tonight. But the first thing you're going to see is that there's no more run-up on the kickoff. Players used to start maybe 5 yards behind the line, which is the 35 from where they kick off. Now they have to be between the 34 and 35. So it's pretty much a standing start. Only 3 guys can be back more than 15 yards. You've got Mizell back there, Daquan Mizell, ready to accept the kick, and off we go in the preseason, and we begin with a touchback. A lot of the starters, the guys who will play in the regular season, not in uniform tonight. So Benny Cunningham will start at running back. Bellamy and Fowler, the wideouts. Sims and Shaheen, who sparkled last year, are the tight ends. And there are the guys up front. Eric Kush, normally a guard, moves to center for this game. Mitch Trubisky is not in uniform, so we're going to see Chase Daniel, who's been around for a long time but has sparingly played, and back of him is Tyler Bray. So Daniel, who comes over, who's worked in Nagy's system, rolling out, and the first play of the game is a pass that's caught up at the 27-yard line by Michael Burton for a gain of 2. Chase Daniel, longtime backup, 10th season. And you can see how sparingly he's played. His record as a starter is 1-1. He's thrown 1 touchdown pass in 10 years, 1 interception, and the rating is 81. And there is Trubisky, who's in uniform, but does not figure to see any action tonight. Cunningham flanking Daniel in the backfield on 2nd down and 7. Little fake, and then the pass is caught by Bellamy, and he takes it out to the 31-yard line. Nagy calling the plays. Andy Reid called the plays for the most part in Kansas City, and then toward the end of last season he gave Matt the opportunity to call the plays down the stretch, and that helped him obviously catch the eye of many teams, Chicago being one of them. He also interviewed at Indianapolis, and the Bears brought him in. The Bears with John Fox the last 3 years, all defense. This time they flip it around and go offense. 3rd down and 4. Daniel fires, and it's deflected and then caught by Bellamy, and Bellamy starts to stumble, but a big gain as he takes it all the way down to the 42-yard line. Gain of 25 yards.
You're going to see this a lot out of the Chicago Bears, just these quick little throws. Think of the quarterback as sort of a point guard here. He's just going to distribute the football in, out. Josh Bellamy, excellent special teams player, now getting a chance to play a little wide out. Good start for him.
Deflected by McClellan, caught by Bellamy. The ball is at the 44-yard line. And the ball handed off to Benny Cunningham, and he has a lot of room. Clark will chase him down and knock him out of bounds at about the 15-yard line. Chuck Clark making the tackle. Benny Cunningham out of Middle Tennessee State.
Well, you're going to see just nothing coming on the inside of this. This is called, when you lose contain. I think the reverse action there on the part of Bellamy drew the safety across the field the opposite way, and just nobody there to support. So good start for this Matt Nagy offense.
It's a 30-yard run coming after a 25-yard pass. The ball at the 14-yard line. Daniel, that shoulder shake, and then goes to the end zone, and it's dropped. Benny Fowler diving for it, had it for the moment, couldn't hang on. Canada covering on the play. It'll be 2nd down and 10.
You never know what you're going to get as far as protection is concerned when you come into the Hall of Fame game. Not many starters in there, but this is pretty solid, and the Ravens have a few guys, and this was an opportunity here for Fowler, who has had a few issues with drops, and that didn't help him.
He's in his 4th year in the league, played at Michigan State, most recently with the Denver Broncos.
51.
2nd down and 10. And that is tipped high in the air, and it's picked off at the 5-yard line. And stumbling out to the 19-yard line is Clark. So Clark, who had to race to make a tackle on the Cunningham run, is able to pick up the deflected pass, and it's a turnover in the early stages of the Hall of Fame game. So after the turnover, The first play they run here is RG3 handing the ball off to Gus Edwards for a gain of 2 yards, and back we go to the interception.
Well, one of the things that new defensive coordinator Wink Martindale wanted to see was leaving some of his big guys in the game, in this case Michael Pierce, to get an interior push. There you see him getting that big push against Jordan Morgan, goes right off of Morgan's helmet, the Chicago Bears guard, and lands right in the lap of Chuck Clark.
So Pierce creating the play. He had a good year last year, his second season in the league. Rolling out is RG3, and shades there of what we saw from him back in 2012. Boy, what a journey for this guy. You go back to 2012, he was the toast of DC. He was absolutely the #1 guy in terms of getting publicity that year. He was going to be the future of the league, but after that it was a lot of injuries. He went to Cleveland. You can win a few bets by saying who's the only quarterback, the starting quarterback who won a game for Cleveland in the last 2 years. When they were 1-31, was RG3 against San Diego 2 years ago.
Exactly right, and it is.
And that one is dropped.
Picked off.
And it may have been picked off. Chicago thinks they have it, and they do. So Perriman couldn't handle it. DeAndre Carson is there to grab it before it hits the turf. And so back-to-back turnovers in the first 3.5 minutes of this game.
Well, for Breshad Perriman, this is not how you want this season to start. He desperately needs to make some plays. He was a first-round draft pick. It simply has not gone well for him. And for the Baltimore Ravens, this is a team that saw some of the strangest interceptions a season ago I think I've ever seen. Did that ball get to the ground?
So it's ruled an interception. And the question is, do they want to challenge?
It is going to be an uphill climb for Perriman this season to make this team. Let's take a look. Control, is there control?
The previous play will be reviewed.
Well, it doesn't have to be challenged because every turnover is automatically reviewed. So no challenge necessary. Well,
here comes my favorite part. Here we go.
Well, we are very proud and thrilled to welcome one Terry McCauley to our crew this year. Terry, for my money, one of the top referees in the National Football League for a lot of seasons. Terry's going to be with us all year long. Terry, let's make your debut right here. What do you think?
Thanks very much, Al. You're really looking, does he have control before the ball hits the ground? That's the whole point of this play, and it looks like you can make an argument either way. I can't see them reversing this. I mean, it's really close, but right here as it's coming in, it looks like that left hand's on the ball. Can you say he definitively does not have control is the question, and in that case, you got to go stance.
And what about hitting the ground? Ball hitting the ground.
If he has control first, he kept control after it hit the ground, he's good.
Are we going to see more plays this year left alone than what we saw a season ago?
I think everybody hopes so, and that's the word we're kind of hearing as well. Whatever the official ruled on the field, if it's not absolutely clear and obvious that he made a mistake, go with the ruling on the field, put the ball in play, and move on.
You know, it's interesting, that left hand sort of slid up the football, but he was still controlling it. But does the sliding hand as the controlling hand? I mean, this is unbelievable, right? Every game is like this.
Well, remember, the ruling on the field is a catch.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands.
There we go.
First down.
Terry is 1 for 1. You bet.
Quit.
Love it. That's it. Retire undefeated. The way that all these new rules have been put into place this year, Terry's liable to get more airtime than we do during the season. This is going to be crazy. And there's a little resume on Terry. NFL referee, 17 seasons, 3 Super Bowls. And the only ref to ref more than 1 Super Bowl since 2000. All right, so the turnover by Baltimore. Each team has turned the ball over once. The ball at the 34-yard line. Keep it on the ground here. That's a 1-yard gain for Benny Cunningham. He's in his 5th year. He was with the Rams last season. Of course, when the season starts for Chicago, they've got Jordan Howard, they've got Tarek Cohn, so they've got a nice yin and yang thing going in the backfield.
Yeah, they really do, and the receivers are what's going to be the most interesting this year. Kevin White really has not been able to stay healthy as a former #1 pick. They bring over Allen Robinson, who was so good in 2015. This kid Anthony Miller's off the charts. Taylor Gabriel can really run. They really felt like they had to upgrade at the wide receiver position, and they have.
10.5 to go in the quarter. As Daniel fires one to the left side. That'll be a short gain. And it's taken down. A flag comes in here. Benny Cunningham made the catch. Daniel indicates it's against the defense. Walt Coleman will provide the official analysis momentarily.
Do we get our first shot with a helmet with this new helmet rule? Watch this. He's holding him up. Do we get it right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you've all heard about it if you follow football. You lead with a helmet, it's going to be a penalty and maybe even more.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, use of the helmet, 15-yard penalty from the end of the play, first down.
Well, this is going to be something that's going to be watched all throughout preseason, all throughout the season, until they figure out how to get this exactly right. There is the rule. A foul, a player lowers his head to initiate and make contact with his helmet against an opponent. The player may be disqualified as well.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things, we had some meetings about all this, is that often it is the tackler who is in more danger than the person that he's hitting.
The time was Patrick Owasso. Ball for the helmet to helmet. There's a pass taken by Benny Fowler at the 10-yard line. I mean, look, a lot of times too, and we'll be discussing this, probably throughout most of the season. You have the ball, you may be defending yourself by lowering your head in the helmet.
Well, they showed plenty of examples of it, but once that helmet goes down either to a dead parallel level or below that, you're in extreme danger playing the game of football. And so they basically have really committed themselves to making this a safer game. And I know people are going to say, this isn't football anymore and it isn't what it used to be. And I think even Terrell Suggs would agree, good. That's what it should be, because if your son or daughter is going to play the game of football, you want it to be as safe as possible. And I think for the most part, the players have embraced the rule changes.
3rd down and 1 from the 7-yard line. To the outside, Cunningham tries to get around the corner. It does, and he picks up a first down inside the 5. Yeah, the players, I think, generally embrace the concept of it, but they were in Philadelphia, the officials were last week, and the Eagles came out confused as to exactly what was legal and what was illegal.
Well, and it's even impacting the Chicago Bears as far as negotiations are concerned. Roquan Smith is concerned that he could be fined or dock pay or suspended, whatever, by the club for a rule that we don't fully understand how it's going to be implemented.
Roquan Smith still unsigned, their #1 draft choice, and the guy who will be slotted at inside linebacker when the season begins if he shows up. Daniel, meanwhile, throws, caught, and into the end zone for a touchdown goes Michael Burton. Picked him up from the Detroit Lions, so they cash in off the turnover. 6 plays, 34 yards, and the Bears have the lead.
Sure is nice when you have a fullback that can be a factor in the passing game. I can't help but think about Bill Walsh, the greatest offensive mind maybe of all time, and boy, he knew how to use a fullback in the passing game. Pretty good using Jerry Rice too, but there they go. And really, what a nice start here for Chase Daniels. Gets the one bad break, the one bounces off the helmet, but really up and down the field both times.
New Chicago kicker this season is Cody Parkey. Gave him a multi-year deal. They had a lot of problems last year with kickers. Extra point is good, and with 8:21 to go in the opening quarter in Canton, Ohio. 7-0 Bears. At the 6-yard line, this is Tim White who's going to run it back, and he gets knocked down at the 25-yard line. Speaking of the Philly special, the play that will be remembered forever in Philadelphia and most of the country, in fact. Here it was.
Comes around, and it literally almost took your breath away, didn't it? When he raised up to throw that ball, you were thinking, oh my gosh, they got the New England Patriots on a play that we had actually seen one time before, right?
Right. It was in Minnesota at the end of the preceding season. But what a call by Doug Peterson.
Oh,
what a masterful game he called. Meanwhile, this is dropped by Nick Boyle, tight end, and that makes it 2nd down and 10. Joe Flacco, there he is, and obviously he's going to be the starting quarterback, even though a lot of fans are saying, well, wait a second, isn't it time for Lamar Jackson? Sooner or later, if Jackson figures to be the quarterback, but not in the opener. Meanwhile, big hole through the middle, bursting through is Gus Edwards out to the 40-yard line.
Yeah, a little read option here out of RG3, and he ran it perfectly. You're going to fake that ball right over there and come back over here. Just long enough to hold that defensive end outside linebacker. Of course, that was his specialty when he was with Washington. Made a lot of people look bad.
From the 39-yard line, handoff goes here to Chris Moore. You know, with RG3, started to mention before, he was as popular as anybody. I think he led in jersey sales his rookie season in Washington. They thought they had a quarterback for the next decade and a half. You remember, Chris, you go back to that 2012 season, you had Russell Wilson as a rookie with Seattle. You had Griffin, and then you had Kaepernick in his 2nd year in San Francisco, who became the starter, took them to the Super Bowl. And look at how it's turned out. Kaepernick without a job, Griffin trying to get a job, and of course Russell Wilson's done pretty well. Flag thrown here, and he's hit. The ball is loose, it's free, and a scramble back at the 32-yard line. It was Isaiah Irving who came in. He created it. And Baltimore winds up with possession of it. But RG3 with a fumble, and the Ravens with a flag down on the play at the outset of the play. So we'll have to sort that out.
Isaiah Irvin may have jumped just a bit getting that
Offside.
sack.
Number 47, defense. 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
There you have it.
Al, you know what's interesting about that is that the officials in our meeting said that these kinds of plays this season, they're going to shut those down much faster and not allow this to happen to the quarterbacks. Now, of course, guys like Aaron Rodgers, who live off the idea of getting people to jump off sides and then throwing the deep ball down the field, they're not going to like it much, but that's exactly the reason right there. They don't want those free shots at the quarterback.
If they do indeed call it, that will limit the number of free plays you see. 2nd down and 1 from the 48-yard line. Play action. Griffin escapes, pump fake, throws, caught, 1st down and a lot more. Gus Edwards, and he'll take it all the way down to the 29-yard line. Tackled there by John Jenkins. So after the penalty on Irving negates what would have been a fumble, 31-yard pickup here.
Well, here's the X factor, because a lot of quarterbacks are taking a sack on this one. He's getting the pressure, and instead he jumps to the outside, waits just long enough for Edwards to turn around and find the football. And so now we're starting to see RG3 get back to RG3 here a bit, because I mean, Rookie of the Year, he was one of the most exciting players we've seen come explode on the scene in many, many years.
Absolutely. He was out of football last year. The Ravens tried to get him into camp just before preseason, but he felt the timing wasn't right. And that throw into a tight window is caught by Nick Boyle, who dropped one earlier on the drive. Gain here of 12 yards and a 1st down for the Ravens.
Okay, this is what I thought Robert Griffin did not do a great job of in Washington. Catch it, read it quickly, get the ball out of his hands. So now not only do you have to defend the scramble and the movement kind of plays and the read option kind of plays, you have to defend those quick throws like that. And if he can incorporate that, it's going to be much more effective.
Mark Thompson in the backfield. They flare him out. Griffin fires, and that is caught, and that'll be a little shy of the 1st down. Perriman making the catch.
All right, and for Perriman, that's a nice play. He comes up, he misses one earlier. Confidence, snags it out of the air with his hands, yanks it down. You can see probably a little mad at himself on that other one, but there you go. That looked like something. I'll tell you, when he was coming out of college, he was an exciting big play guy. There's Marty Morningwig. who had a little experience with Mike Vick, so he knows how to deal with RG3 and Lamar Jackson, some of these guys.
Perriman, first round pick in 15 out of Central Florida. And that'll set up a 1st and goal here as Gus Edwards, a rookie free agent from Rutgers, has a first down.
You know, we were talking to Robert, and he was saying getting another chance to play in the NFL after you had to sit out a year, he said it's just a blessing, and I don't take it lightly. I saw him on the field beforehand as well. He was just amped up and ready to play football again.
There he is by season, starter in 12, starter in 13 before losing the job to Kirk Cousins. And that is caught, and into the end zone goes Max Williams, a tight end for the touchdown. Nice drive, 5-yard TD pass there. And they move 77 yards in 8 plays.
So more and more seeing these fullbacks coming out. This time a tight end lined up as fullback. But again, it's Griffin's ability to buy just a little time, to scramble, to move out of the pocket, to avoid that first pass rusher and Kylie Fitz and create that kind of play. What a drive that time by RG3.
And now this is a story. Corey Vedvik, who is from Norway but played college football at Marshall, has a spectacular leg. You don't see it there, obviously, but we're going to see him all night long as the kicker and punter, Joe Flacco, salutes. And the game is tied 7-7.
To come from Lovington and get as far as I got, never would imagine that. I don't think anyone even had the chance to do that. I mean, just getting a chance to play in the NFL for me was a big deal. Once I saw some success, it was like contagious. I wanted to get better and better and better. I never thought that it was possible for me.
Brian Urlacher, 2000 NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year in 05, all-decade team, most tackles in the history of the Chicago Bears. And what do some of the competitors say? Well, here's what Aaron Rodgers, who faced him a lot of times, had to say. Should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. One of my favorites, if not my favorite player. Hyper competitive, tough human, does it the right way. A lot of passion, a lot of grit, and a lot of class. Always enjoyed our battles. I think he's the smartest player that I've ever played against. So says Aaron Rodgers.
Can't get much better than that.
Meanwhile, this is Corey Vedvik. We mentioned grew up in Norway. Jan Stenerud is here tonight, and another Norwegian is in the Hall of Fame. And this kid has some leg, even though this one will be returned. Mizell fields it at the 2-yard line. Brings it back to the 24, and let's go to Michelle.
Well, I'm with the aforementioned Brian Urlacher, and, you know, the Chicago Bears and their history of middle linebackers, Bill George, Mike Singletary, Dick Butkus. Thinking back on the first time you put on a Bears uniform, how did you hope to carry on that tradition?
Well, I was nervous because the media in Chicago makes a big deal about the middle linebacker tradition, and I didn't play middle at the time, and they were already comparing me to those guys. It just wasn't fair to them at a young age. You know, the better I got, the more comfortable I felt. But what a great tradition, and not just of linebackers, but of defense in our city.
Well, you're like them now, all 4 of you in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right there.
You know, you read the comments on screen that Aaron Rodgers made. He quickly endorsed you after you were named a finalist. You've played against him often. You see, yeah, we got a big play here.
And it would figure that a linebacker would make an interception when you were interviewing Urlacher. Correa makes the interception, and that is the 3rd turnover of the game. Back with Brian, back with more of the game after this. So Daniel throws the pick here and sets the Ravens up in great shape. You got Kamale Correa making the interception. There he is, number 51.
Yeah, watch Deion Sims here go up the field and then just sit, turn around, and Daniel thinks the ball is going to go right to him. Then he makes that late break to the outside, and Daniel just did not anticipate that, thus the throw way behind, and Correa able to make the play.
Meanwhile, Brian Urlacher waiting with Michelle. Get back to Brian in just a minute. But for the moment, you've got a first down and goal at the 9-yard line. And a direct snap is taken and then given to Mark Thompson, rookie out of Florida, free agent, to make it 2nd down and goal with 3.5 to go in the quarter.
Well, it's been fun so far. Did you get a chance? I really honestly wanted to see some Chase Daniel. I've always heard coaches talk about how well he plays, but doesn't get in the games very often. But this is a high level of quarterback play for the Hall of Fame game. We're excited about having this matchup.
To this point, and we'll see Lamar Jackson in the second half for the Ravens. Second down and goal. Pressure is put on, and the catch is made at the 5-yard line, just about at the line of scrimmage by Thompson. LeBlanc makes the tackle. It'll be third down and goal.
Yeah, tough play for cornerbacks on the outside, and Cre'Von LeBlanc that time able to make a big tackle in the flat. And you know, he's very much in the mix with this Chicago Bears team. All the starters really not playing, but they are rock solid in the secondary. Bryce Callahan is usually that slot nickel, but Cre'Von LeBlanc right there is in the mix.
Prince Amukamara figures to be a starter once the regular season rolls around. And active tonight. Third down and goal. Look out. Down he goes. Griffin sacked Isaiah Irving, who was offside on a play that he disrupted. This time he winds up getting the sack. It'll be fourth down and goal. Second-year guy is Irving out of San Jose State.
Yeah, Isaiah Irving is really putting on a show so far. The one a little bit late and jumping off sides, but desperately need to get some pass rushers going with the Chicago Bears team. A lot of people think that may be the fatal flaw on this defense. Can they get the pass rush? Leonard Floyd still struggling a bit with that knee. Aaron Lynch not healthy. So that is the question for the Bears.
31-yard attempt. Of course, Justin Tucker will be their kicker during the regular season. Vedvik auditioning for some other teams, bangs it through. 10-7, and back we go to Michelle.
Yeah, back with Brian, who's been cheering on this Chicago defense, enjoying the performance. We were talking about Aaron Rodgers, a guy you're very familiar with, and he came out publicly quickly after you were announced as a finalist and said he's got to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of my favorite, if not my favorite player in the NFL. What did all that mean to you?
Oh, some nice words. You know, we had some good battles there for, 7 or 8 years there at the end of my career. Such a great competitor he is, and we know what he can do on the field with his arm and his legs. He was tough for us to play against because if we didn't do anything but cover 2, we weren't going to beat him. So we just had to try and be patient. But he's a great competitor. We had a lot of good games against him.
A lot of good games. Chicago, Chicago, Chicago. What was it like to play in Chicago?
Unbelievable. Our fans in Chicago are phenomenal. You know, it's cold. You know how it is in the winter there. But our fans showed up cold. Didn't matter if we were good or bad. They showed up either way. And they're knowledgeable. They know when to cheer, when to be quiet, when the offense is working. So they're fun to play in front of.
A great football city. Now, some fans who haven't seen you since you were playing may notice the difference in the hairstyle.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, you know, they carved the bust. When they unveil that bust on Saturday, might they add a little bit of hair?
No, there will be no hair on the bust. It's going to be bald. We've already discussed that, so no worries there, fans. It'll be bald.
So you will not need a comb inside the Hall of Fame.
No, that'll be good. Thanks. It's going to be bald.
Hey, congratulations, Brian.
Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate it.
Al, Chris.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Brian Urlacher. So much fun to watch him play through the years. Take a look at that. Bill George, Dick Butkus, Mike Singletary. And one woman has seen them all. There is Virginia Hallis McCaskey, 95 years young, the owner of the Bears, the daughter of George Hallis. On hand tonight.
First lady of the NFL, wouldn't you say?
Very much so. Benny Cunningham, 5-yard gain with a flag down. Has she seen it all? I think somebody said that they interviewed her recently.
Holding,
and she went
number
through
88, offense, 10-yard penalty, still first down.
She went through the Bears' history decade by decade.
As only she could.
Yep.
You know, but it was good to listen to Brian Urlacher as well, because here's a guy that changed the position just a bit. Remember, he was a safety in college, and they brought him down inside to use his speed. Ray Lewis, the same kind of player. You try and protect him up front. Let him run sideline to sideline. So good in pass defense. So here he is, rightfully in the Hall of Fame.
University of New Mexico. A minute and a half to go in the quarter. First and 18 after the penalty on Sims. And Cunningham has nowhere to go. Of course, their first-round pick, Roquan Smith, out of Georgia. He is, of the 256 guys, you see Ryan Pace is the general manager, obviously in the middle of of the negotiations. We'll talk about that in a second, but he is the only guy who was drafted. 256 players are drafted. He's the only one who hasn't signed yet.
He is, but after watching a lot of film on him, I can also tell you it's a possibility he ends up being the best player out of this entire class, too.
2nd and 19, and that pass is incomplete. Intended for Sims, and we go to Michelle.
Well, Al, a league source told me Roquan Smith and his representatives no longer have those concerns about having his guarantees voided in the case of suspension over that new helmet rule. Now, I'm told what is holding things up is that the contract language in the previously reported behavior clause, specifically that although Smith is not looking for protection of his guarantees for off-the-field behavior, he is looking to be protected from having his guarantees voided over a limited scope of potential on-the-field suspensions that might result from, let's say, a fight or an illegal hit. Now, at the moment, Smith is living in Athens, Georgia, working out, reportedly in tremendous shape, and that's no surprise to Bears GM Ryan Pace. He told me earlier today Smith is, quote, an animal with his work ethic. We have a ton of respect for him. Al?
But they can't wait to get him into camp so he can learn the system. Of course, he's got Vic Fangio there, who was retained by Nagy from the old regime as the defensive coordinator.
Al, it just doesn't sound like enough to keep you out of camp. You know, it seems like you could write, okay, here's the exception to what the rule usually is. Come on, you know, let's go. He's going to be a special player, and I know they're anxious to get him in.
You would think. O'Donnell's kick fielded by White, and this will take us to the break. Returns to the 40-yard line, and that will be the end of the first quarter with the score of the Chicago Bears 7 and the Baltimore Ravens leading by a score of 10-7. More from the Pro Football Hall of Fame right after these messages. Canton, Ohio, home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Good story there. You got the tackle Orlando Brown Jr. Played his college ball at Oklahoma, helping to protect Baker Mayfield. And talk about his history. His father, Orlando Brown, who passed away a few years ago at the age of 41. And his young son right now, the third-round pick of the team, in the lineup as the pass is incomplete over the middle, intended for Tim White.
Well, Orlando Brown is going to be a big key for this season this year. If he can handle that right tackle position, and he is just a younger form of his father, isn't he? Orlando Brown used to hang around with the Baltimore Ravens when his dad was there when he was about 12 years old, walked back into camp, knew everybody. Now his quickness, not the greatest thing in the world, but you can't bull rush him. He is absolutely huge, 6'8", 345, a little trouble with speed inside and out, but does have a little athleticism to him too.
Yeah, he pulled there to the right side, and the play goes to the left side as Griffin picks up about a yard, tackled there by Isaiah Irving. It'll be 3rd down and 8.
Now, trust me, he is not fast, but watch the first step. I mean, that is not bad for a guy that size. Now, the only thing, he has some bad technique flaws, like he'll cross his legs in pass protection, which no coach is going to allow him to do that and get away with it. No defensive player will either. But there are high hopes that he can be right tackle, and then when Marshall Yonda comes back at right guard, protect his inside a little bit, he should be able to do it.
Yeah, Marshall missed most of last season, and Griffin gets enveloped and sacked back at the 32-yard line. The protection breaks down. Roy Robertson Harris with the sack there, and it's 4th down.
Yeah, pretty nice bull rush right here. When you hear about bull rushes, this is what it is. You just get your hands underneath the guy and walk him right back into the quarterback, and not a darn thing you can do about it. We talked about it a little bit earlier. The Ravens this year are going to leave some of their big guys on the field in pass rushing downs to get that exact move.
Ayers is back to receive Edvic's kick. Good hang time. Fielded at the 17-yard line, and a nice run back here is up to the 31. Bobby Beathard going into the Hall of Fame. Quite the journey.
I just think there's nothing like football. I mean, the relationship players have on football teams, in my mind, it's closer and better than any of the other sports. I've been to some other Hall of Fames, but this is the best Hall of Fame of all the sports. Plus, I was born in this state, so it's nice to be back in Ohio.
There he is, He drafted 4 Hall of Famers: Darrell Green, Russ Grimm, Art Monk, Junior Seau. Teams won 4 Super Bowls, 2 in Miami, 2 in Washington, 7 conference championships, and one of the all-time good guys.
Oh, no, surfer, right?
Yes, he was.
It's out there in California.
You bet.
And he would trade away those #1 draft picks, didn't think anything of it.
Nope. This is Mizell. Nice gain here to the 40, and let's go to Michelle.
Well, I'm joined by Bobby Beathard, and Al just mentioned those 4 Hall of Famers that you are now going to be joining in Canton. To be enshrined with those guys, what does that mean to you?
I'll tell you, those guys were great guys. It was probably the most fun I had in pro football, is being around those guys. But I tell you, the thing I loved is going all around the country to all the colleges looking for players like that. And then when we drafted Darrell Green, I think we drafted Darrell in late in the first round, or the last pick in the first round, but he was one of the defensive backfield coaches, Richie, or defensive coordinator Rich Pettibone, said the guys that small can't play in the league. I said, no, this guy's different. And he played 18 or 19 years.
You knew. You selected Joe Gibbs, whom you hired in Washington, to present you for induction. What made him the right guy to do the job?
Well, Joe was out in San Diego with Don Coryell coaching. And one of the coaches on that staff was Ernie Zampese, and Ernie and I were good friends. And I called Ernie, and he had told me before that Joe was a guy that might be really something. So I called him one year and said, Ernie, tell me when Joe's ready for that job. And he said, Bobby, he's ready. So I called Joe and said, will you take the job? He said, yeah. So I said, well, think of the guys you want to have on your staff, and there's some guys here I want you to keep, our defensive staff at the Redskins. And so that worked out. So I went in to tell Mr. Cook, our owner at the Redskins. He said, who are you going to hire? And I said, I've already got a guy. And he said, who is it? And I said, it's a guy named Joe Gibbs. You don't know about him. He said, Joe Gibbs? He said, who in the hell is Joe Gibbs? If we hire a guy named Joe Gibbs, they'll never forgive us. You're going to be fired. And I said, no, just stick with us. Well, we lost our first 4 games with the Redskins.
Well, he's in the Hall of Fame now, and so are you. And one other connection, Alan Chris, at San Luis Obispo in college, Bobby Beathard and John Madden, another Hall of Famer, were roommates. Wouldn't you have loved to be a fly on the wall then?
Unbelievable. And you talk about the 2 busts that will talk to each other at night.
And they've already done it before.
Right. Oh, beautiful. 3rd down and 12, and that is dropped. Would have been short of the first down anyway by Fowler. Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. You go back to that 1950-18. Coach Madden and Bobby Beathard. They were roommates, but they were at opposite ends of the picture as they lined them up.
It's just cool.
It's great.
Yeah, that's cool.
Patrick O'Donnell to do the punting. You've got Tim White back to receive. And White will back up and let it go into the end zone for a touchback. 11:30 left in the half. Opening preseason game. Baltimore by 3. 2008, John Harbaugh takes over as the coach, and their #1 pick is Joe Flacco. So these guys have been doing it, coaching quarterback for 10 seasons, now number 11. The first 5 years, you had an 86 passer rating, you had a Super Bowl MVP award, but over the last 5, take a look at that, 32nd passer rating in the league. The team has been 40-40 after going 54-26, 5 playoff appearances in those first 5 years, and just 1 over the last 5 seasons. And they've missed 3 in a row, so kind of this is going to be a very interesting year for Joe Flacco, and maybe too for John Harbaugh. There was some talk, Steve Bisciotti, the owner, not saying that, you know, they have to win, but they have to win.
Well, last year was a bizarre year from beginning to end. Okay, so last year you get Flacco, who is unhealthy with his back, misses all the training camp, and yet the season still came down to the last minute of the season, and Andy Dalton hits Tyler Boyd on 4th and 12 for a 49-yard touchdown to knock out the Ravens and put in the Buffalo Bills. So one play, if they make it right there, they're in the playoffs and we're not having this conversation. But the good news is Joe Flacco's healthy this time and going through camp.
Offside, number 49, defense, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
So Flacco goes into his 11th season. There is Ozzie Newsome. He's in his final season as the general manager. Ozzie's going to step aside. Eric DeCosta is going to get the job. He's been his assistant. 1999, Ozzie went into the Hall of Fame as a player. Tell you what, he's pretty close as an executive. You look at his drafts. DeLance Turner takes the ball close to the 30-yard line. I mean, Ozzie Newsome as a GM, I mean, can you imagine your first 2 draft choices are Jonathan Ogden and Ray Lewis? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, and 2 Super Bowl championships since 2000. Name how many teams have done that. So pretty complete resume, and it's going to be interesting because Ozzie's still a young guy. You know, is Ozzie going to get some attention? Is he really going to retire? You hear all kinds of teams that maybe could be college teams, Alabama. Who knows what's going to happen with him? But I can't name one person that I've ever met that doesn't like Ozzie Newsome.
62 years old, got plenty left. Meanwhile, Hurst made the catch. A rookie, he was their #1 pick in Ozzie's last draft back in April. First down up at the 32-yard line. Quick throw, caught on the outside here to the 37. Goes DeVere Posey, third-year guy out of Ohio State. Gain of 5. It'll be 2nd down and 5.
You know, it's going to be fun to watch this Chicago Bears defense, I think, this season, provided they get Roquan Smith into camp. You got Vic Fangio, who certainly is used to playing with great linebackers. He did out there in San Francisco all those years. But this is a football team that if they get speed at the linebacker position, Vic Fangio knows how to work that about as well as anybody. And I think this defense has a chance to make a real jump this year because so much of it is about coverage, and he's going to have 2 coverage linebackers in Danny Trevathan and Roquan Smith.
Gain of 2 here. Watch Orlando Brown, 78.
And then a little pancake to finish. There you go. His dad used to get on him a little bit about finishing plays. He's just one of those really nice big kids, and his dad always tried to instill a little mean streak. It sounds like he was listening.
32. Griffin's going to keep it. Can he turn the corner? Very close. Where to cross the line, and they're going to give him a first down. Reaching out, Michael Joseph makes the tackle, but RG3 able to move the sticks with 9 minutes to go in the half.
You know, you forget that Robert Griffin III at one time was a great sprinter as well. And for all we talk about Lamar Jackson, RG3 actually had his 40 time was 1/100th of a second faster than what Lamar Jackson's was. And he looks like the fastest guy you've ever seen on the field.
Has moments tonight. Here's a handoff, but right in the backfield, Gus Edwards gets taken down by Jonathan Bullard before he can get on track. Loss of a couple.
And talking with RG3 about his knee, so of course I'm always the one to ask a stupid question. I was like, okay, how's the knee doing now? And he said, it was 5 years ago. Everywhere I go, people still ask me about my knee. He said they know how to fix knees now. My knee is fine. It's not a problem at all.
2nd and 11. He just thankfully has an opportunity. Can he stick is the question. As RG pump fake and throws a bullet, and it's dropped at the 45-yard line. Trying to jam it in there to Nick Kaiser, a rookie out of Grand Valley State. Incomplete.
Let's take a look at Orlando Brown on the outside. Remember now in the National Football League, your hands can go a little wider than even they could in college. We've seen a lot of guys make a good living in the NFL wrapping both arms around the outside of the shoulder pads. Don't see that called for holding in this league. And if he learns to do that, I don't know who's going to get around.
Deion Bush busted the play up. Meanwhile, on 3rd and 11, Griffin buying time. Nowhere to go. Runs out of bounds. And they'll have to punt. We're talking about Griffin. Can he make the team? First of all, Flacco's going to make the team. Obviously.
Right.
Lamar Jackson's going to make the team. So for Griffin to make the team, either somebody has to get hurt or they have to carry 3 quarterbacks.
Which sets up for the following year, because now it is totally dependent on how Joe Flacco plays. If Joe Flacco has a good year, he comes back as a quarterback. If he doesn't have a good year, he's probably traded the way Alex Smith was in Kansas City. And then the question becomes, do you want to keep RG3 around just in case that scenario happens?
Bedwick with a punt that is caught just in bounds at the 11 and returned to the 15. Halfway through the second quarter, Baltimore 10, Chicago 7.
Now that I'm in the Hall of Fame, just being here, just being able to see the legends. I'm a big-time fan of the game, and being able to look at the guys' bust that paved the way. I think once the jacket goes on and I'm able to take a deep breath, I will be able to sit back and enjoy my whole professional career.
Randy Moss, what a career. Jerry Rice, 197 TD catches, and Randy Moss with 156. And he, you know, he was so elegant, and he made everything look easy.
That's because he was fast. I mean, I know you remember that Thanksgiving Day game his rookie year where he just ran past every Dallas Cowboy they tried to put on him out there, and that's when you knew this guy was something special.
Daquan Mizell, speaking of Randy Moss, here he is with Michelle.
Randy, you join quite an exclusive group this week. Raymond Berry, Lance Alworth, Paul Warfield, Steve Largent, Jerry Rice, all first ballot Hall of Fame wide receivers. So what does that distinction mean to you?
Well, you know, I've always give credit when credit is due, and those are the guys that paved the way for me to be able to enjoy playing the game of football. You know, the latest guy was Jerry Rice. I looked at Jerry Rice's game. I monitored a lot of my like yards after the catch, and just wanting to do what Jerry Rice was able to do in the league, and then being able to watch Steve Largent, that's probably in my era, to be able to watch him, a guy that really didn't have a lot of pizzazz, but he made it happen. So for me to be able to be down with a first ballot Hall of Famer with those guys, that's a blessing.
Your first NFL head coach, Dennis Green, the late Dennis Green, he gave you a chance and drafted you when others were passing.
Right.
If he were here this weekend, what would you want to say to him?
Well, I think that first and foremost, it would have been right for him to help me, you know, present my bust. You know, because without, you know, Coach Green pulling that trigger for me to be able to be a Minnesota Viking, I know the franchise will still be moving on, but at the same time, how much enjoyment with the fans had and what they'd have got to see the Super Freak. So it's a lot of this is really owed to Dennis Green.
But the guy who will be presenting you for induction is your son, Thaddeus, and I wonder if you look ahead and imagine, what do you think that moment's going to be like when the two of you unveil that bust together on Saturday?
Well, it's going to be a surreal moment because I'm all about family. And, you know, for me to really, you know, grow up in the path that I had to take to be able to put on this gold jacket this Saturday, it's actually I'm honored, you know, for my son, you know, take some time off in college. He's at LSU. For him to miss some time with his team and come and spend it with his first family, so it's going to mean a lot to me for my oldest son to help me unveil my bust. But hopefully it means as much as it means to him. I hope it means that much to him.
Now you are a student of this game, and there are a lot of great quarterbacks in that Hall of Fame. Are there one or two that you would have really liked to have played with?
I mean, hands down, I think that when you talking about the greatest quarterback or backs in the game, you're talking about Tom Brady, you're talking about Joe Montana. I mean, not taking any credit. I mean, I grew up loving Warren Moon, but, you know, Joe Cool, yeah, I think that, you know, him throwing me a couple touchdowns, man, and just being able to see him perform under pressure. Because I like you saying, being a student of the game, I look at guys like that, being able to get me the ball. I'm a speedster, so I don't like my balls floating in the air too long. So when I look at, you know, Joe Montana, when I look at guys like Warren Moon, I have to say Joe, but I'm with Warren Moon.
Well, I think they both would have loved playing with you too. Al, Chris, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. You did get to play with Brady. That was a 59-yard punt. 10-7 is the score. Back after this. RG3 is finished for the night. 7-11, 58 yards that Perriman dropped. certainly didn't help. Had his moments. And we're going to see Josh Woodrum kind of as a placeholder here because Lamar Jackson's going to play in the second half. And there he is, their #1 draft choice. A little less than 6 to go in the half. They start this drive from the 44-yard line. And the handoff goes to Gus Edwards, who picks up 4 yards out to the 48.
Well, we've talked about a lot of different things here so far, but the #1 pick for the Ravens this year was Hayden Hurst, a tight end. And one of the reasons I think that he was the #1 pick is because he can block. Watch him here. Coming off the ball, they had a lot of tight ends in this one that were pretty good receivers, and some really good. As a matter of fact, I think the other tight end they took, Mark Andrews, may be the best. But out of all those guys, Hayden Hurst, yes, he's a good receiver, but he's also a very good blocker, so they have that sort of dual threat now.
A lot of motion, and Woodrum didn't like what he saw. He had Hurst going in motion. And so for Hayden Hurst, a rookie, South Carolina, this was a guy who was a great baseball pitcher, and the Pirates drafted him, and he had a great fastball, command of a lot of other pitches as well. 17th round pick in the MLB draft, but then all of a sudden he shows up and he can't throw the ball over the plate.
And we've heard of it before, the yips, right? Whether you're a putter or throwing a baseball or whatever. Here's a guy that threw 97 miles an hour. So he got all kinds of attention, got the yips, went to all the shrinks, did all the stuff, never could get over it, comes back and decides, well, let me try football. It probably felt good to just hit somebody after as frustrating as that had to be. And now here he is making plays just like that. He was absolutely brilliant coming out, and despite the fact a little older, here's a guy now that is going to be a major factor for the Ravens and a first-round pick.
That one will be taken away. Illegal formation.
5-yard penalty, still second down.
No, might not be able to throw, but he can catch.
Yeah, and here's watch him reach his hands out, little inside move here, just play a little power football, snag that thing out of the air. More and more we're having to see all tight ends do what Rob Gronkowski can do, right? Split out, go against a safety or a linebacker and win that battle on the slants. So more and more now they're incorporating him into the passing game. They're excited what they've seen here in this first week.
Second down and 11. Pressure, sack back at the 23-yard line. Kylie Fitz, a rookie from Utah, with the sack. We go to Michelle.
Well, you're talking about Hayden Hurst. He told me when he was drafted by the Pirates, he thought it would just be a matter of time before he was pitching in the majors. But you talked about the battle with the yips, Chris, and his decision to walk on at South Carolina as a football player at the age of 22. His life changed. He told me, I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. During those years with the Pirates, I didn't understand why it was happening to me, but I feel blessed. I really do feel like it happened because I was in the wrong sport.
If you follow baseball, you think back to the 70s. They had a pitcher named Steve Blass who had a wicked slider, great control, and all of a sudden just lost it overnight. Couldn't throw the ball over the plate. Up to the 44 goes Rashad Perriman. So Steve wound up having a nice broadcasting career. But boy, in the early 70s, he was wicked.
Yeah, I never could throw it over the plate, so it didn't make any difference to me. And that's harder than you think. But it is nice to see guys who don't give up. You know, I was reading this whole huge article about him. Can you imagine how torturous it would be to be able to throw 97? And I mean, he would sail it 10 feet over the head. He would bounce it 50 feet up there. Guys refused to warm up with him. I mean, it was bad.
The Norwegian Vedvik to punt. He's the place kicker and punter tonight as they rush Sam Cook and Justin Tucker. And the run back here by DeMarcus Ayers, taken to the 29-yard line. Brian Dawkins, a new Hall of Famer, his journey.
I still can't believe that I'm a Hall of Famer in the National Football League. Guys come up to me and, you know, I modeled my game after yours. The reason why I played so physical and emotional is because I saw you. Like, it's still hard to believe. And I don't know if that'll ever be something that'll be commonplace to me.
Another guy, great fun to watch, all-decade team in the 2000s. More than 50 takeaways and more than 25 sacks. Ray Lewis and Rondé Barber, the only others in that category. And
Wolverine.
Most of that career spent in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, that is dropped up at the 38-yard line by Marlon Brown, and we go to the field in Michelle.
With Brian Dawkins, who must have had quite a weekend back in February. On Saturday night, you find out you're in the Hall of Fame, and the next day, the Eagles win the Super Bowl. 6 months removed. How do you look back at that weekend?
It's unbelievable. You couldn't have written a better ending for somebody than that. One night you win, in the Hall of Fame, you get announced you're going to get a jacket and a ring, and then the next night, the team that you're helping as an executive win a Super Bowl, and they go out and actually do it against the best team for the last decade with the Patriots. Outstanding weekend. I was so humbled and so blessed to be here, to be honest with you.
In the Philadelphia locker room when you played there, you had 2 lockers. One for Brian Dawkins, one for Weapon X Wolverine. Now, when those 2 guys left the locker room and merged on the field, what happened?
Well, I mean, there is no more emergence. Brian Dawson did not exist. It was all about the alter ego that basically the emotions and the energy and the chip that I wore on my shoulder came out to play. And I played with the edge on my edge. I played on the edge, and sometimes I crossed over. I admit, sometimes I crossed over the edge. But you know what? I just love to play the game so much, and I love to play it with my teammates, for my coaches, and I gave everything that I could, and I enjoyed. I think that's the thing that people don't understand. I enjoyed playing the game of football. I so much enjoyed it.
Your alma mater, Clemson, has a storied football program, and I want to ask you about it. We got to go to commercial because we have a 2-minute warning, but Clemson question coming up. More from Canton after this.
Patrick O'Donnell to punt. It's 4th down. Baltimore leading by 3. Tim White, second-year guy out of Arizona State, where Herm Edwards is the new coach. Good luck to Herm. And that bounces at the 27-yard line, and a break for Chicago because it rolls all the way down to the 12, and we go back to Michelle.
Still with Brian Dawkins, and I wanted to ask you this question because I think people would be surprised to find out that you are the first Clemson product to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So you're making Clemson history as well. What does that mean?
It's unbelievable. Like all the legends and all the individuals that played at Clemson, it's not like it's a scrub school. No. It's a school with a rich tradition of fine quality players. And to know that I'm the one that's now representing Clemson, as well as my high school back in Rains, but it's an honor for me. Again, I tell people all the time that I never thought about the Hall of Fame because I was thinking about just thinking about earning a job and Pro Bowls and stuff like that. I never thought about the Hall of Fame. And here I am, a couple of days away from having a bus with this mug on it. Come on. Oh, goodness, what a blessing.
Well, we are looking forward to it. Congratulations, Brian.
Thank you.
Al?
All right, thank you, Michelle. Brian Dawkins, 16 years in the league. Meanwhile, Woodrum's a guy who's bounced around the league. He's been an offseason and a practice squad player for the Giants, Colts, Bears, Buffalo, Baltimore, and Cleveland. And can't escape the grasp at the 10-yard line of one Nicholas Williams. Number 8 is Lamar Jackson, Heisman Trophy winner 2 years ago at Louisville. Picked in the first round. He was the 32nd and final choice in round number 1, and we're going to see him in action in the second half.
Much better passer, I think we'll see tonight than people want to give him credit for.
3rd and 11. Woodrum fires, throws a bullet for a first down. Up to the 27-yard line. That's caught there by Tim White as the clock ticks down to 1:12 to play. And a timeout taken here by the Ravens.
There he is, big Orlando Brown out here. We'll take a look at him again. And really, Kylie Fitz is one of their better young pass rushers. And nice little trade-off there. You probably learned that with Baker Mayfield, protecting him on his left side of that offense. And on the backside of that, that's Tim White, who has a really good chance of trying to take over the return job here and be one of the 5th or 6th receivers.
Baltimore and Chicago both revamping that receiving core during the offseason. huge turnover for both at wide out. 1st and 10 from the 27-yard line. Which is stepping up and stepping out. Nice game. About 18 yards and a 1st down for the guy who played his college football at Liberty.
Yeah, you talked about the changeover at the wide receiver position. It is major. They lose Mike Wallace, Jeremy Maclin, and Michael Campanaro, but they pick up John Brown, the speedster out of Arizona, who had some sensational years, big plays early in his career. Michael Crabtree, now 3 straight years over at least 8 touchdowns, and the only guy that's done that in the league is Antonio Brown. Willie Snead, a little feisty guy, comes over as their slot receiver from New Orleans. And along with the 2 tight ends they drafted, major changes.
And that's caught for a short gain to the 47. Their leading receiver last year in terms of number of receptions was Ben Watson, the long-term tight end, and he's gone as well.
Well, maybe one other guy to keep your eye on this year is Jordan Lasley, who was undrafted out of UCLA, but has certainly made an impression.
Look at it, the ball is loose and the ball bounds out of bounds. Mark Thompson trying to hold on. Timu knocked it loose with 40 seconds.
You know, the other thing, you talk a little bit of the big picture of the Ravens. Be interesting to see what this offensive line turns out to be. Ronnie Stanley certainly going to be the left tackle, Marshall Yonda the right guard. But other than that, there's a lot of possibilities on this offensive line.
Baltimore, 30-second timeout. Please reset
Last
the clock
timeout
to 34
taken
seconds,
for
please. 34.
the Ravens. 34 seconds. They're going to reset the clock in a second here. There is one of the best kickers, not only in the league, maybe ever. I mean, you look at his numbers
right now.
He's the most accurate place kicker in the history of the National Football League. Never missed an extra point. And of course, their special teams in Baltimore are terrific. Him and Sam Cook. Jerry Rosberg has been the special teams coach. Of course, that's John Harbaugh's pedigree as well. Longtime special teams coach before he got the job.
Yeah, arguably the best.
3rd and 11. Protection starts to break down. Buying time, fires down the sideline. That's caught, but it's going to be short of the 1st down. They're out of timeouts. Tim White makes the catch. They wrestle him down. And there's a flag on the play, so that will stop the clock here. An eligible man downfield is the initial call. Walt Coleman looking over toward the Bears bench. Matt Nagy, we'll talk more about him in the second half. The first-year Chicago coach, part of that Andy Reid tree, as is John Harbaugh. So Walt now explaining the options here. We think
An eligible line downfield prior to the pass, number 77 offense. Still be 3rd down.
Well, they could have taken the play, which made it 4th down, 4th and about 1.
Yeah, but I think they would have gone for it up there.
I do
you?
too at this point. Yeah,
19 seconds to go.
Absolutely.
And so now you take them back. I think that's the right decision.
I think Nagy made the right call there.
A lot of new stuff. What did Andy Reid tell him? He said something like, right now you know more football than you ever are going to know in your life. You become a head coach, all the other responsibilities take over, and you don't get a chance to learn any more football.
3rd.
Negative timeout in Chicago. So Nagy, long time, as we say, an Arena League quarterback for 6 years. At one point, he was hurt when he played for the New York Dragons and wound up as a color commentator, abutting Chris Collinsworth. There he was in the Arena League. So he and his wife, they have 2 boys, and they say, you know what, let's go for the girl.
Right.
So not only did they get another boy, they got twins.
Yeah.
So now they got 4 boys.
And so Matt wanted 4 all along.
Right.
His wife just wanted 3. So she calls from the hospital after she talks to the doctor, and she goes, you always get what you want. This is unbelievable. We're having twin boys.
4-0. 3rd and 16. It's caught by Turner. And that should take us to halftime. Indeed it does in Canton, Ohio, where the halftime score is Baltimore 10 and Chicago 7.
When you walk through here and you're starting to see the legends, you're starting to see all of the different jerseys, you can hear them, you can hear their voices, you can feel it. And that's what makes you feel like, I'm here now.
Very little doubt that that man was going into the Hall of Fame first ballot, 12 times to the Pro Bowl. First guy since '82, 30 or more interceptions, 40 or more sacks. Could do it all. Spent his whole career with Baltimore. We go to Michelle.
Well, let's take a look, Al. His introduction tonight was exactly as it should have been. Look at this side by side.
Ah, good. Shit, I should have looked good in that one now.
Yeah, how would you compare now to then?
I think I was a little looser now. I mean, you know, maybe because I didn't have to compete against nobody. So I was just doing it and knowing I'm free to walk off.
There you go. 43 years old and you look like it's never changed.
You know what, Michelle, I tell you what, this is why it never changed. That moment always, and you'll hear it a little bit tomorrow, but that moment always ends with the honor of God. It always does. So when I throw out my chest, it's like, God, we did that. We did that, yeah.
Well, it's a trademark, and you know, you're one of the few players that joined a team in its first year of existence, the then expansion Ravens, and you took that team and really made it your own, and it's still Ray Lewis's team. How did you do that?
Me and Jonathan Ogden had this conversation last night. We're smoking a cigar at the hotel, and we're sitting back, and we remember the exact conversation we had. We get off the plane, we have no jerseys, we have no colors, we have no logo, nobody knows who we are, and we look at each other and say, what did we just get ourselves into? And the first thing we said, Michelle, was, I said, J.O., imagine being the first to change this program around. Cleveland has never won. So the mentality is really shook, so they don't know what it means. But imagine us coming in here, bro, and changing this whole era and being the beginning of that. And to look back at the Ravens organization and to know that we walked in that door day one, and now when I walk back in Baltimore, well, actually, I can't walk in Baltimore because that's how much love that Baltimore got me at 19 years old. I was a child. I'm 43 years old now, right? So we grew together, and what we've done in that city to be a part of that legacy, right? That's one thing I'm telling you, and I'm be very upfront with this. Like, I will never leave my city. Nobody can't pay me amount of money to get me to put on a different color jersey.
Well, and I don't think they'd want you to leave. You know, your leadership stretched far beyond your own locker room. You were the leader there, of course, but players from across the league, young, old, offense, defense, it didn't matter. They reached out to you for advice on a regular basis, and you welcomed it. Why did you embrace that role?
Oh, man, you know what? I embraced that role simply because of what I never had when I was a child. And it's kind of why I'm so there for my kids at every call. Because when you miss that as a man, you know the way someone's feeling when they ask for it. So when young kids are asking for leadership, young superstars that I just got off the phone with 2 days ago, it was like, bro, I'm ready to give it up. Forget the name. I'm like, you can't, because there's too many people watching you. So we don't have, if you go back to the days, the Reggie Whites, and you go back to those days, we had people that was mentors to young men who came up. And now when I started playing the game, I became that guy. I became that next guy that everybody can say, I can trust him. I know he's going to give me the right information. He may not give me what I always want to hear, but he's going to give me the right information. And so it's like uplifting to me. It warms my heart when I get home and say, wow, he got it. He's changing. And you see him changing, right? And you see the evolve of a young man turning into a man because he's asking for advice. So, man, I really am in that mode of leadership to say, look here, the only gift I got for you is the truth.
Hey, congratulations, Al. Ray Lewis is still the face of the Baltimore Ravens.
He is.
What's up, man? Al, what's up?
And maybe one of the new faces is going to be Lamar Jackson, who we just saw his first action of the night. He'll play the whole second half, and it was 3 and out for him. And now it's Vedvik, the Norwegian punter, bombing one down to the 9-yard line. DeMarcus Ayers looking for some room, gets around the right side, and gets tackled up at the 24-yard line. Early third quarter. Tony Dungy will be joining us in a minute. Got a flag here before we go to a commercial. Been a relatively penalty-free game to this point. Very unusual for the first preseason game. Only 6 accepted penalties in the game. Walt
During
Anderson.
the return, holding number 55 of the return team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Backing Chicago up. Baltimore leading by a score of 10-7. Hall of Fame game, Canton, Ohio. A look inside the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2018. Of course, one of the busts belongs to this man. Here he is live and in person, Mr. Tony Dungy, our colleague at NBC.
Yes.
Great to have you. This is kind of like a tradition like no other. We have you every year in the third quarter to fill in a lot of blanks for us. So much to talk about.
Well, it's great to be here, and that Hall experience is something special.
Yeah, Tony, you were inducted in 2016, so he's a veteran of the Hall of Fame. And this is quite a class too. This one,
unbelievable. Just I think the fact 2 people in the same position, Urlacher and Lewis, that rarely happens, but just the testimony to how great they were.
Moss and Owens.
Yes,
right.
2 receivers and 2 middle linebackers. Yeah,
right. And the next year's class is going to be pretty good as well too. We look at the guys who retired 5 years ago. Meanwhile, you've got Tyler Bray. There's Terrell Suggs, and there's a guy who'll be in 5 years after he retires. No doubt about that. Tyler Bray, he's been around, 5th year out of Tennessee, but sparingly played. Mizell carries up to the 11-yard line. Tony, so many things to talk about with you. What about if you were a rookie coach, head coach, as is Matt Nagy, what advice would you give to a guy coaching the head coaching position for the first time?
It's funny you ask, because I talked to Matt on the field and I told him I only have one piece of advice for you. What Dick Vermeil and Chuck Noll and everybody told me when I started: don't leave what you believe in. Whether it's successful right off the bat, you hope it is, but even if it isn't, stick with your principles and what you believe about football, and you'll be fine.
We had a pretty good mentor in Andy Reid as Bray goes back to pass, and Bray airs one out down the sideline, and that's out of bounds and incomplete, intended for Gentry. Boy, you look at Andy Reid's tree right now. Boy, it's in full bloom.
And there's a reason for that. Not only have they been good, but Andy gives his assistants responsibilities. He trusts them, he leans on them, and so people know what they can do. And he's bred a formula and an attitude of success, and people want that.
Well, you look at that tree right there. Harbaugh, Childress is here tonight. Spagnuolo, Frazier, Rivera, Sherman now with the Giants. Peterson won the Super Bowl. McDermott.
Proof is there in the pudding. Those guys have all done well, and it leads you to believe that Matt is going to do well.
3rd down and 8. Bray fires, and that's caught at the 16. That's short of the first down. Flag is on the play here, so it would be 4th and 3, but we'll get Walt Anderson's call.
Well, you might have another one of those drop the head kind of hits here. This is
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 51, defense, use of the helmet, 15-yard penalty, first down.
That is Kamalei Correa. Meanwhile, he's had a big night, this kid. He's out of Boise State, 3rd year, 2nd-round pick in 16. Made some big plays tonight, but gets flagged here. Tony, this is going to be something we're going to talk about all year long.
It is, and this is the definition of what they're talking about. Dropping your head right before contact. This is what a lot of players do, and it's going to have to be a learned thing to get this out of the game, but this is the intent of the rule.
And let's face it, the Ryan Shazier hit a season ago scared us all to death. I mean, everybody decided at that moment we have to protect, and more often than not, we talked about this, it's the tackler in more danger than the ball carrier.
He is, but even in this case, I don't think he's lowering his helmet to deliver a blow. He is going to hit him with the shoulder. The receiver moves a little bit. You hit him with the head first. It's just going to be something our defenders are going to have to learn.
You want to hit him with a face mask first. That's not a penalty under the new rules. Ayers, meanwhile, loses it, and the Ravens are right there to recover it. Nothing but purple shirts around that one. DeMarcus Ayers dropped it. And it's recovered by the Ravens with a 3-point lead. It is, we think, Bronson Kaufusi. We'll have to check it out on the replay as to who recovers it.
Let's take a look right here at the end of the play. There you go. You can see it right there. Deshaun Elliott coming up with that play, the rookie.
He extracts it. And then Kaufusi is the guy who recovers it.
So a little bit of sloppy stuff here and there in this game, but as to be expected. But now we come back to Lamar Jackson, and I think this is, in many ways, Tony, the game tonight. This is going to be the question for the fans of Baltimore. They've seen their offense shrink a bit. They're not working the ball down the field like they were. And now comes a guy that can not only throw it, but do this.
Yep. And as a defensive coach, this is what you worry about. You can do everything right, have the coverage perfect, and it's a first down, 10-yard game running the football.
Well, what you'll see, Tony, I think, is during the course of the year, teams will refuse to play man coverage. Because, guys, you can't turn your back and go chase a wide receiver because this quarterback going to come running right behind you.
And people wonder, how quickly he's going to pick things up, but he won't see a lot of things. I think you're exactly right. He'll see either blitzes or zone coverage because you're going to be afraid to give him that open field.
Went no huddle there as Mark Thompson gets stopped for no gain.
So many people categorize Lamar Jackson as a guy that is going to want to run all the time. And I watched him a lot at Louisville. He is someone who sits in the pocket and wants to read the defenses, often will come off to a second or third look, but that X factor of his ability to run is going to make him so dangerous in this league. It really is.
That time he tried to hit the other #1 draft choice or first rounder, and Hurst incomplete. So he was the last pick in the first round, won the Heisman as a 19-year-old. He's still only 21 years old, went back to play one more year at Louisville, and probably the future. Meanwhile, there's RG3. Do they keep 3 quarterbacks? That's the question. We don't know. 3rd down and 10. But Jackson getting his feet wet tonight here in Canton. And he fires, and that will be caught, and that's going to be a first down and taken to the 11-yard line by Jordan Lasley, a rookie out of UCLA.
And that's just what you were talking about, Chris. He breaks out the pocket, has a chance to run the ball there, but he's not looking to run. He looks to find his receiver, and he continues to do that. He's going to give people headaches.
Well, we saw RG3 when he was in the game. A lot of times they're not moving to run. They're moving to throw the football. And we see Aaron Rodgers do that all the time. When you look at a defense, so there's 5 offensive linemen, which means there's 6 gaps you have to protect. Well, unless nobody's going to rush 6. So now you've got somewhere to go for this guy on almost every play.
This time he can't escape. He's taken down at the 15-yard line by Elijah Norris. So there was Griffin winning the Heisman Trophy in 2011, then a sensational rookie year at Washington. And Jackson winning the Heisman in 2016. It was Baker Mayfield, now of course with Cleveland, who won it last year.
What did Lamar Jackson tell us if we were asking which one was better, draft day or winning the Heisman? He said, oh, by far draft day. I didn't have to give a speech.
2nd and 13, fires over the middle, and that is incomplete. Intended for Hayden Hurst, but another flag comes into the end zone.
Has to be a flag. And that was actually a well-thrown ball.
Exactly where you want it. You want it for these tight ends up on those seam
foul,
routes.
Unnecessary roughness, number 46, defense. Half the distance of the goal, first down.
That was Nick Orr, and that creates a 1st and goal.
You know, it doesn't matter now if you drop your head where you hit the opposing player. It's no longer the head and neck area, all that stuff. If you drop your head to make a hit, it can be in the stomach and the ribs and the thigh, anywhere else, and that's a foul. Let's take a look. Lower his head. Oh, helmet on the arm, shoulder area.
Helmet made contact first.
Looked like his head was up a bit, though.
Meanwhile, he's going to wind up hitting Hurst here for a touchdown. So you've got their 2 first-round draft choices, the tight end and the quarterback. combining to give Baltimore a 16-7 lead.
Really, that whole drive came down to that 3rd and long where Jackson was able to connect. And here, once again, you'll see Hurst just coming off, understanding what's going on. He's an older guy. I think he's 25 years old, just getting that little seam and sit down. But what an impressive start there for Lamar Jackson.
And this is what you want to see, Chris. As you said, sit in the pocket, hit that 3rd step, get rid of the ball accurately on time.
Right, we know he can run. Let's just go watch the rest of it.
Vedvik for the extra point. 6 minutes into the 3rd quarter, and the Ravens are up by 10 in Canton.
I have introduced my children to the Lombardi principles: the commitment, the consistency, the discipline, the pride, the character. You don't do things right once in a while, you do them right all the time. That's basically my philosophy. It's a path to success.
Took a while, but he's finally in. Jerry Kramer, part of 5 NFL championship teams, and of course, every time you think of Jerry Kramer, if you love football, you think of one play, the Ice Bowl. Bart Starr takes it into the end zone behind that man. Jerry Kramer, Hall of Famer. And let's go to Michelle.
Well, I'm with Jerry Kramer. You know, it has been over 49 years since you played in your last NFL game, and it's taken this. Here you are, though. You're in Canton. Did you ever give up hope that this day would come?
Well, I got pretty close. You know, I don't know that I ever actually gave up on it, but I was getting pretty doubtful. And I had decided that I was going to be comfortable with whatever came out of the situation. If I got in, fine. If I didn't get in, fine. I had had a wonderful experience in professional football, and wonderful teammates, a wonderful coach, and a wonderful record. And life had given me a lot of wonderful presents, right? And if they didn't give me one more, I was probably okay with that. I just decided that maybe it's not going to be, but it's not going to ruin my life. It's not going to make me act like a jerk and just get angry about everything, right? So I got comfortable with where I was and what I had done and my team and my coach and the whole thing. And, you know, this last nomination, I'm going, well, that might be all it is. It might be just a nomination. So I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to have a wonderful time with it. And if it goes further, super. If it doesn't go further, super.
Well, here you are, so?
So it went further. And it's way beyond anything I could imagine. Mr. Baker, the chairman of the Hall of Fame, said, Jerry, what have you been doing lately? I said, Mr. Baker, I've been really busy. I've just been doing a lot of stuff. He said, you ain't seen nothing yet. And I said, well, you know, I've been pretty busy, and I was kind of doubting what he was saying, but he was right. He was right. He was exactly right. It's just been an overwhelming number of things to do and people who want you to do things, and it's been a wonderful experience. And I've got my children here tonight that makes my life a little more enjoyable, right? So it's a wonderful thing.
Well, you played for Vince Lombardi, of course, and you shared an iconic moment with him after he coached his final game as a Packer. And I want you to take a look at this image that we're showing on the screen. Just vintage you and vintage Vince. What does that make you think of?
Well, I was writing instant replay at the time, and I was in the locker room with my recording devices and all this kind of business, and I kind of had a different perspective on the game when I was reporting on it and looking at it from a distance. And I told Willie Davis, our offensive captain, and Bob Skoronski, defensive captain, and Bob Skoronski, our offensive captain, that they should carry Coach Lombardi off the field. We were going to win the game, and this may be his last time as a Green Bay Packer coach, and his captains should carry him off the field. So I'm standing there as the game ends, and I don't know where Bob is. Willie's on the field, but Coach Lombardi starts walking out on the field, and he's like 20 or 30 yards out on the field. And Forrest Gregg says, Jerry, let's grab him. So we attacked him and put him up on our shoulders, and we just wanted the world to know what we thought of him. What a wonderful coach he was, and what a wonderful human being he was, and how much we loved him.
And now you know what the pro football world thinks of you. Congratulations. Better late than never. Here you are in Canton. Way to go.
Thank you, Michelle. Great to be with you.
Al?
Very well put, Michelle, by Jerry Kramer. I'm just thinking about then and now. They're carrying their coach off the field. Now you dump a bunch of Gatorade on him.
Tony, which one would you rather have?
I would have much preferred that carrying off the field for sure.
Yes.
Nobody would have put a Gatorade on Lombardi. 7.5 to go, halfway through the quarter. As Chicago on a 2nd down and 10. Brian Noel up to the 34. Most players in the hall for a head coach. We'll start with number 5, Vince Lombardi. Kramer becomes his 13th. Tom Landry has put 14 into the hall. Paul Brown 15. And George Halas, number 1, 26 players into the Hall of Fame. That's with one team, of course, Halas' entire career, obviously, founding the Chicago Bears. Coached 40 years in 4 10-year increments. Meanwhile, Jean-Baptiste with an unnecessary roughness penalty on the last play. And we have a 1st down and 10 at midfield.
Ooh. And that's just silly. That's one of those things you can't do, Chris.
I'm just telling you, anything with a helmet this year, it's not a good thing. They're not going to let any of that go.
Especially after the whistle.
No.
1st and 10 at the 50. And Bray will throw. And that is caught here by Thompson. Tony, let me ask you a question every fan asked me in the offseason. What team do you think will surprise this year?
Boy,
or teams?
I'm really anxious to see the NFC West and see how this comes. I'm liking San Francisco and the things that are happening there. The Rams, we know they finished very well last year. They added a lot of talent. Will that come together? Everybody's writing Seattle off, but they've got some proud players still. So I want to see what happens in that division. I think the surprise team could come out of there.
How about the LA Chargers? I mean, here's a team that won 9 of their last 12, something like that, after a poor start. And that's a football team. They've already gotten some key injuries, but that defense, I don't know who's going to score a whole lot on that defense. They've got the 2 great pass rushers on the outside.
I thought Anthony Lynn did a great job holding them together after that rough start. Kind of reminded me of my first year in Tampa. We got off to a really bad start and played better as the season went on, and the second year went to the playoffs.
Be here, shot.
Little under 6 minutes to go here. And we have Ryan Noel taking the ball to the 36. Take a look at one of the rookies for the Ravens. We've got Kenny Young, played his college ball at UCLA. Talked to him the other day. He said, you know how he gets inspired? He puts on a Ray Lewis speech. He did it as a kid.
Okay.
And he sees Ray Lewis say, no teammate's going to beat me to the ball. And now here he is playing for the Baltimore Ravens.
He's in a good battle, too, with that inside linebacker position on the line, Patrick Owasu, who was the starter last year.
2nd and 8. That pass is incomplete. Intended for Noel. 3rd down and 8. Timeout in Canton. 17-7 Ravens. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya, Tony Dungy joining us in the booth. You see Lamar Jackson next time Baltimore has the ball. Tribute to Urlacher right there. Brian going into the Hall of Fame. 3rd down and 8 now for Chicago at the Ravens 35-yard line. Tyler Bray, 5th year out of Tennessee, was with Kansas City last year. So he knows the Nagy system, and that is caught to the 28-yard line goes Javon Wims, but it's a little short of the 1st down. So 4th and 1. And Nagy will send in the play.
No question about it here, right, Tony? You go for this one.
Absolutely.
Long field goal. Down 10.
Same thing you'd probably do in a regular season game in this situation.
It's an easy quarterback sneak if they want it.
What's up?
They to give it to Knoll, and ball for Naught. Nope, he is stopped at the 31-yard line. You got Kenny Young. We just highlighted him.
That was a Ray Lewis play.
Yes, it was.
There's Kenny Young right there. Watch him just come shooting through the gap. And you're right, Ray Lewis. We used to see this with game winners sometime with Ray Lewis, but that's exactly what they're looking for now out of this defense. They've been wanting to add a little bit of an element of speed. We've seen smaller linebackers, Tony, come in the league because that coverage is just so important, but you also get explosive plays like that.
Yeah, and he just hit that too quick. Left guard was supposed to double team and come off, and he couldn't come off quick enough with him pulling the trigger there.
So Jackson now. Jackson 2 of 3 for 21 throwing. Fends off the rush. Throws against the grain deep downfield, but way out of bounds. 2nd and 10.
Well, we've talked a little bit about Lamar Jackson already, but some of these numbers are almost startling by the time you get through these. Design rushing yards over 3,500. And look at this, Tony. Before contact, 5.3 yards. After contact, 3.5 yards.
Amazing.
Total 8.8 and 79 missed tackles. Now, they haven't incorporated any of the RPO stuff, any of the design stuff. He's just out here playing football tonight. And he can't have those.
Yep, he gets picked off. Durant Grant jumps the route and makes the interception. Former Jacksonville Jaguar.
Just one-on-one, and you can see the cornerback here just looking back in the backfield, but then just turns and man coverage, and that ball hung a little too far inside there, right, Tony? You got to get that one out.
That is accuracy, and he needed to throw that a little over the outside shoulder, and very good play, but a late ball.
Well, that's what John Harbaugh told us. Nice play by Grant. Was that for Jackson coming out, his fatal flaw, as John called it, was accuracy. And so if he's going to make the jump into being a starting quarterback in this league, he has to prove that.
Dorian Grant with the interception. Meanwhile, that one's right on the money and caught by Colin Thompson, number 82, for a first down, and back we go to the pick.
Well, you'll see the technique turns to an inside coverage, and then the throw is really to the outside. Nothing wrong with the footwork. He just didn't see the subtleties of the route, I don't think. Didn't see that cornerback jump inside and realize he had to move outside.
Work outside. Yeah.
And that pass is incomplete. Looked like Gentry wasn't quite ready for it. And it'll be 2nd down and 10 with 3:44 to go in the 3rd.
You know, Al, you were talking about surprise teams. Keep your eye on this Chicago team. I was down on the field earlier talking to some of their offensive players, Trubisky, Cohen. They love what Matt Nagy has brought. They're talking about different things they're involved in that we're going to see in the regular season opener. They're fired up about this offense.
I like that running back tandem. You got the bull and the scat back there as Ryan Knoll picks up about 3.
Tony, and, Mark Helfrich, the offensive coordinator, coached my son at Oregon. Offensive, you know, everybody looks at Chip Kelly, and Chip was great, but Mark had a lot to do with that offense and utilizing guys.
Well, let's get into this offense a little bit because it is going to be significantly different. A season ago, you had the Chicago Bears under center, protecting a young quarterback in Mitch Trubisky, handing the ball off on first down, second down, giving him a lot of 3rd and 8s. Now it's going to be RPOs, run pass option. You're going to see him in shotgun predominantly, which is where he was at North Carolina 95% of the time. There we go.
Meanwhile, 3rd and 7 was the arm coming forward.
That's a
Correa.
fumble.
Yeah, Correa has had some night.
Yes, he has.
Well, this guy was 3rd on the depth chart coming in tonight, but he's going to be moving up a little bit here. Or a lot.
Yeah, and basically taking the place of C.J. Mosley, who is their best linebacker, but this is a good way to get some attention.
Patrick Ricard comes up with the ball. 17-7 Baltimore. All right, back to Jackson now. Lamar Jackson at the helm from the 16-yard line after the turnover. Slings one to the outside for a very short gain. Lee makes the catch, and tackle is made early on. What about calling plays, Tony? This is one of the things, obviously, that Jackson is going to have to learn in a hurry.
Right. We don't think too much of it. We think it comes natural. But so many of these young quarterbacks coming out of that college system did not call the plays. They looked to the sideline, they saw a card. And so Marcus Mariota told me the same thing. That was one of the big adjustments he had to make.
Mariota played under the new offensive coordinator of Chicago.
Yes.
Mark Helfrich.
Yes.
So instead of just going out there and playing football the way that he was used to doing at Louisville, his brain is circling and trying to remember it. And you forget, sometimes these things are 15, 16 words long, and now you got to turn back into a football player.
Yes, not only what you have to execute on that play, but getting it out and getting the information to your teammates. This is new for a lot of these quarterbacks.
And not to mention then what the Tom Brady's of the world are doing at the line of scrimmage.
Here's the blitz, and he got away for a moment, but then he gets sacked back at the 18-yard line.
And that's exactly what Lamar Jackson is going to see. They're not going to give him those running lanes early on, Chris.
They're not, and they're filling it in with a blitz here, so they come here, and then get the free runner. And you know that these defensive coordinators are just going to fill those lanes or spy or do something to keep him from running. What's going to be the phrase you're going to hear? Make him beat you from the pocket.
Yep.
Until he does that, we are continuing to do this.
Vedvik. Line drive kick, fielded at the 33-yard line. Ayers back to the 49-yard line with a little more than a minute to play in the third.
Well, let's do a little predictive analysis from Sunday Night Football as to what these two teams might do coming up, and maybe not stunning to see those numbers about right around the 50-50 mark. Playoff probabilities much better for the Baltimore Ravens than the Bears. But for the Ravens, you got to understand right now the NFC in particular, NFC North, is one of the toughest divisions in all of football. So the Chicago Bears, new coach, new quarterback, plus you got to go try and beat three of the best teams in all of football.
Got a great defense you're playing against in Minnesota, great quarterback in Green Bay. Detroit has new coaching staff, but that's going to be a tough division.
But the Ravens are one of those teams that you take a look at what they're doing, winning 9 a season ago, barely missing the playoffs. Probably one of the best pass defenses in all of football, assuming Jimmy Smith comes back. They have two young cornerbacks that are really going to make a difference, they believe, in their team. Marlon Humphrey, of course, so good a season ago, and Tavon Young, who was so good a couple of years ago before he got hurt. So very deep. There's Eric Weddle, Tony Jefferson on the back end. A lot of cornerbacks, good, solid veteran safeties, and that's a pretty good formula for winning football right now in the league.
2nd and 7, play action, and that pass intended for Thompson is incomplete. So a half minute to go now, and it's 3rd down and 7.
And I'll tell you, talking to John Harbaugh, he was so excited about his wide receiver core. He said everybody's been talking about Joe Flacco in the off years, but these guys, these 3 new guys, have added juice. They are getting open. They're creating separation. Even against these good defensive backs, it's been so competitive. Said our passing game is going to be much improved.
Yeah, if John Brown can be what he was several years for the Arizona Cardinals, he is that deep threat, that speed threat that could really make a difference.
Of course, we haven't seen any of those guys tonight. The first of 5 preseason games. That's caught and breaking away. Wims to pick up the 1st down. Caught it a couple yards shy of the first, broke a tackle, and takes the ball down to the 30-yard line.
Yeah, and just so you know, an offensive player can get a penalty for lowering his helmet as well. Missed there, but you could see the idea of the receiver was going to initiate contact with his helmet. If he had done so, that would have been a foul on the offensive player.
And how would you have called that? Yeah, both guys lower their helmets.
Throw everybody out.
End of 3, 17-7. Back after these messages.
I've been here, but I've never been in the Hall of Fame. It's going to be kind of emotional because I'm going home. And when I drove up and saw my picture out there, that tear come again. Unbelievable to know that I am finally have a new address, a new home, and a new place to live forever.
Another guy, took a while for him to get in. All-decade team of the 70s. Iron Man, never got hurt. Started every game during his career with the Houston Oilers. Fourth quarter, Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya, Tony Dungy joining us in the booth here in Canton, Ohio. Bray goes back to pass, throws, and reaching up for it is Wims to make the catch at the 8-yard line. Good play by the rookie out of Georgia who was picked in the 7th round.
And this is exactly the kind of play he makes, Al. He is not a speedster, but he has the ability to go up and win these jump balls. He did it consistently in college, and they're giving him those opportunities. And, well, you make one play in the NFL, and all of a sudden you start thinking you can do it again. Nice. That was nicely done.
First down and goal. He's caught 3 tonight for 48 yards. Chicago down by 10. Bray with good protection, fires through traffic and incomplete. He had 4 purple shirts and 1 white shirt in the end zone. That was Gentry. Second down and goal.
Bennett Jackson back there to step up and make a play. And, you know, for a lot of people, this is always the point in the game where we can get on to subjects and do that. But for the young men that are playing on the field right now, this is their shot at the NFL, and usually the game gets more intense in the fourth quarter.
And for the coaching staff, this is exciting because you're looking at guys who you want to see what they're going to do in these situations.
To the outside, 4-yard gain for Ryan Knoll. The rookie played his college ball at Oregon State. Free agent. Third down and goal.
Knoll had a nice career, 810 yards rushing over there. So, you know, you don't get bad football players in the National Football League.
No,
I mean, sometimes they're smaller, sometimes they're a little slower, sometimes they're what. But you don't get to a 90-man roster in the NFL unless you can play.
From the 4. Here they come. Floated into the end zone and incomplete. Overthrown. Wins the intended receiver. Averett with the coverage on the play. 4th down. Let's go to Michelle with Robert Brazile.
Yeah, with Robert Brazile, we mentioned team of the decade in the 70s, but until now, you were the only linebacker from that team had not made it to the Hall of Fame. But here you are finally in Canton. What's it like to finally have this second home, if you will?
I'm at home, and it's such a good feeling. You know, I've always worried about my parents. You know, my mom and dad are 86, and they are blessed to see their son go into the Hall of Fame. That's one of the biggest things in my life right now, for them to be here in Canton with me to celebrate this occasion.
And your father, Robert, is going to be introducing you for induction. And like you said, at that age and to be able to do that, what did it mean to you to be able to give him that honor?
Well, you got to go back and what he's been through. You know, my dad had some cancer this year, and I didn't know what I could do for him, you know, and I'm not a doctor, but when I told him that he had to present me into the Hall of Fame, this guy changed. I'd never seen this look in my dad, and I'm his oldest son, and I know I love him. This guy changed, and he found out, you are really going in the Hall of Fame, and I'm going to get the honor. He said, this is such a blessing, son, and I love you for it.
In an era in the NFL when nicknames were pretty good, Dr. Doom was right up there. How did you become Dr. Doom?
Well, it started back in 1975 during the college All-Star game. This guy, Richard Wood, played for SC. We all in the college All-Star game. He looked in the Chicago Tribune, and he found this character named Dr. Doom. And I didn't know what Dr. Doom and this character was. Howard Cosell. Howard Cosell said, yeah, that's a good nickname for you. It fits you. I said, how did it fit me? He said, look at the Doom part. Death on offensive means. That's all I ever seen in you. The way you hit and the way you take, that's a good name for it. And he took it from that day and made it big.
You know, you came out of Jackson State. They have a pretty good knack for producing Hall of Famers, including your college teammate, Walter Payton. What do you remember about playing with Walter?
The fun, the hard work. Walter had the same thing I had in me, and we didn't know it. We tried to outwork each other. We want to be better. I want to be better than Walter. Walter wanted to be better than me. And in whole, it turned out that, we did something back then. We made history. 2 first-round draft picks from a historical black college or university.
And both now in the Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Can't wait to hug him tonight.
Yeah.
Al.
Thank you, Michelle. How cool is it? I mean, Robert Brazile is 65 years old, and his dad, who's 86, will induct
He's going
him.
to present him. And I'll tell you what, a great football player, Al.
Oh,
we
yeah.
had those battles against the Oilers.
All
and
in the division.
that big man on the outside, he was tough to block and a gentleman.
Well, he was, and he could run. I mean, that's what I remember. It's like a cannonball coming after you, and you were, even as a wideout, you're scared to death with this guy coming after you because you knew if he got there, the cannonball was running over you. But he could play.
Well, one of the greatest of all time, of course, Lawrence Taylor. Here's what he said. Dr. Doom inspired me to be great the way he played, made me want to be great, motivated me to play the way I did. He was me before me.
He's right about that. He was special. And if he had been in a situation, a system where they rushed the passer all the time, he would have put up some great numbers too.
It's a good nickname. It's a good nickname.
It is great.
Anybody that played against that guy, that's a good nickname.
Well, Jackson fires a strike for a first down to Janarian Grant out of Rutgers.
Tony, did you see that throw right there? That is what we have seen that Lamar Jackson is capable of. Just this little flick. This is all he needs. Just get it to the guys. He reads defenses well. He can anticipate throws. Sometimes he can get in trouble trying to overthrow the ball. Just get it there.
Yeah.
You're not going to add. You're not going to take away a second on a pass. Just time it up.
But that's what you learn as you play. Accuracy, timing, that's what does it for quarterbacks.
Gus Edwards, been the primary ball carrier tonight, his 9th tote of the night for 33 yards. It'll be second down.
Sonny, give me your opinion of the new kickoff rule now. We went through it pretty extensively the other night, and I've been watching it here tonight. So you have 8 guys that have to be in a 15-yard box. They can't block in the first 5 yards up there. But because the kickoff team has to be at a standing start, there's still 15 yards of separation. Everybody's running back, and you're still getting that 15-yard collision. And I think the one concept that was supposed to help may be hurting because they can't get that running start.
You are getting the collisions. It'll be interesting to see in the regular season if they try to kick it deep or not.
Kayvon Walker knocked it away. Back after this. It's 3rd down and 6. Ravens have a 7-point lead. And the ball up at the 45-yard line. Jackson out of the gun. Steps up, slings one, a little high and incomplete, and a little wobbly intended for Levine.
Well, let's take a look at Lamar Jackson's night thus far. Take a look at that release. Not too bad, maybe a tad low. Check out the release time. 7, not terrible. The best of the best in the NFL will be down around 0.3 seconds. Possibly a little above or below that, so he could quicken that up a bit. But he does have that other factor as a quarterback that may compensate.
Fair catch made here by Ayers. So, speaking of the schedule, here was Nagy when the schedule came out, gathered his team around, and here he was.
I'm gonna break the schedule to you. Sunday, let me give you a time real quick. 7:20 at night. Little NBC action. Turn the lights on. Turn the lights on. At Green Bay, baby.
Yep, what a way to break in. Rookie head coach, he breaks in on Sunday Night Football. The following week, he's on Monday Night Football. And then the rest of the schedule, almost every game is at noon Central Time.
Well, we'll find out what they're made of in those first 2 weeks.
There's always flex, too. From the 19-yard line, look out. And down goes Bray back at the 11-yard line. A lot of heat put on. That time Jackson is there to get the sack.
We are seeing some good action. And, Tony, you know how this goes. There's Bennett Jackson, former Notre Dame Fighting Irish guy. coming up with a big play. But the later you go in the game sometimes, and all these coaches always say the same thing, we're just going to play a base defense, a base offense, and then you get in a situation where you're trying to win the game. Here comes the all-out blitz. Slot, corner, here we go.
Don
quarterback doesn't see it.
Martindale promoted from linebacker coach when Dean Pease retired for a month and then went to Tennessee. Wims makes the catch here. It'll be 3rd down and long.
It was interesting about Martindale because he does take over, and a lot of the conversation was, oh, he'll be more aggressive, and they were excited. And he said, you know what, a lot of times being aggressive is looking like you're going to blitz at all times, but a lot of times you're just bringing 4 people. But you want that protection to make a mistake, trying to slide one way, slide the other way, and create some openings.
Well, when's the last time a new defensive coordinator said we're going to be passive? Every time a guy gets that job, we're going to be more aggressive. Because the fans want to hear that.
Uh-oh.
3rd and 14, and look out, and Bray just has to collect it at the 1 and keep it out of the end zone is all he can do. Setting up 4th and 1,000,000.
Okay, Tony, you want one more new rule? So you know you slide, you're down where it was. But it used to be if you would dive forward,
head first,
and nobody touched you, you could bounce as long as you want to. Not anymore. Now you dive forward and you're down where you hit.
And you can't fumble the ball at that point.
Right.
So right. Yep.
Ryan Winslow will punt. First kick off his foot tonight. Taken at the 48-yard line, running parallel, and it's going to be about a 3-yard loss by Janarian Graham. 8:23 to go, 17-10 Ravens.
There's a lot of success stories, and seeing all the busts that are in there, everybody has their own story, their path to success that led them here. I never really thought that I would play beyond the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. And so now to be part of 300-something odd guys, you know, based on where I came from, you know, it can definitely be a lot of inspiration to a lot of kids out there.
Well, there's the story within the story here. We'll talk about it in a second. Tremendous career. 3rd most TD catches in NFL history. Only Rice and Moss in front of him. Playing with several different teams throughout his career. Came off a broken leg to play in the Super Bowl back in Jacksonville a number of years back. As the Ravens take over right now at their own 46-yard line after the punt. Up by 7. And Jackson's going to keep it. He's got a lot of room here. I'm going to turn it into a 9-yard gain. Tony, your take on Owen said, I didn't get it on the first ballot. I'm upset about that. So I'm not going to come to Canton. I'm going to accept the award, get the gold jacket at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. Your take on it?
I really feel badly for him, Al. Coming here that weekend was one of the greatest weekends of my life, and not for what I got out of it, but the fact that my family was all here. We made a reunion out of it. My high school coach, my high school teammates, college teammates, players that I coached, fans. It was such an emotional time, that gold jacket dinner, Chris, and he doesn't know what he's missing, but more than that, what he's causing his friends and family to miss.
You know, I read an interview with Harry Carson recently. Remember, Harry was passed over for a long time, and Harry basically said to the call, take my name off the ballot. And then when he got in, he realized, hey, this wasn't so much about him as it was about his family, as you say, the people that helped him get here, and Harry wound up coming.
You heard Robert Brazil talk about his dad presenting him at 86 years old, and what a thrill it's going to be for his dad. That goes for a lot of people around you, and that's what I think Terrell is missing.
It's too bad, you know, I mean, throughout the course of it, for whatever reason, better or worse, he's had several of these kinds of moments, you know, but this one is a self-inflicted wound. And not that it won't be a great ceremony at his college, and I don't want to say that at all. And I would agree with Terrell Owens. I thought the numbers said he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I said that at the beginning. But It just doesn't make any difference if you deprive yourself of the moment.
And I'll tell you, being in it, that is not the thing that you're going to remember. First ballot, second ballot, whatever. Art Monk, Chris Carter, Marvin Harrison. There's some tremendous players, tremendous receivers that didn't get in on the first ballot. But once you are in, it's a special, special fraternity. And I just think he's making a mistake that is not only going to cause him to look back on it and say, gosh, maybe I would have done it differently, but and a lot of people are going to miss out on this weekend that it is so special for you.
So 4th down right now, and Vedvik, who's done all of the place kicking and the punting tonight, sends one to the night sky that bounces around the 5-yard line and will be down there. Meanwhile, for Owens, he sent out an invitation. There it is, cordially invited to Hall of Fame at the McKenzie Arena at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga.
You know, the other thing, Tony, we didn't talk about was just the purity of the relationships. Even if you didn't know the other Hall of Famers, you're a brotherhood now that is really special. What do you think the group will think of Terrell?
The group will be disappointed. They know he's a great player, but I'll tell you, that's another special thing. Our class, you know, our group, and I knew several of them, Marvin Harrison and Brett Favre, but Orlando Pace and I have a relationship now that is different than would have been if one of us didn't come that week. And Dick Stanfield's sons and Ken Stabler's grandchildren. I mean, we all kind of have this bond of the 2016 class, and it's something that's unique, and you want to have that. I want him to have that.
Well, what's done is done. Let's switch gears here. Let's talk about, you were talking about the Bears before. You think that, you know, they may surprise some people. The guy we haven't talked about is that man right there, number 10, Mitch Trubisky. Didn't see him tonight. Your impressions of him after last season?
I liked him. I saw some things, and I'll tell you what, he is very excited about this offense. He was telling me, I have more decision making, I have more responsibility, but I love it, and we're doing some things that we didn't do last year. And he's fired up for the season. He thinks it's going, and I know Mark Helfrich and Matt Nagy are going to do things that he does well, and that's important.
Well, the Bears traded up. Remember, they had the 3rd pick in the draft 2 years ago. Traded into the 2nd spot, afraid that somebody else was either going to trade with San Francisco or the 49ers would take him to get Trubisky. So Ryan Pace went out on a limb, got the kid from North Carolina, and he goes into his 2nd year. 3rd down and 3 here. And that's caught for a 1st down. Out to the 26 goes Wims. Of course, what every Bears fan is hoping is it's the same thing the Rams had, where you had Goff with Jeff Fisher, then they bring in Sean McVay and had that great 2nd year. Same sort of situation here.
Different system, but the same thing that you're hoping for. And
pop right there. Wow. Flag comes in, and now you
almost expect it.
Yep. You got Bennett Jackson hitting Daniel Brown, sending him to the grass. And he knows it.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 39, defense, 15-yard penalty, 1st down.
And he's saying he led with his shoulder, but we'll see what makes contact first.
Let's take a look right here.
No, that's helmet.
Well, I hate to say it, but the way it was described to me, all right, was that if you lower your head, now if he hits him with a face mask, no problem. If you hit him with a much broader area than what it was last year, it wasn't just the very top of the helmet, it's a broader area, and if that makes first contact with any body part, that they're going to call it. Now, we're going to have a million flags this year, right? I don't know how you're going to split the difference here.
It's so hard to play defense there.
Well, Terry McAuley's with us, longtime great referee in the NFL, will join us all year. We're going to get Terry to weigh in on that play. I mean, you almost have to be a contortionist to avoid this.
Yeah, but I think if you look at the verbiage rule, I don't see this player lowering his head to initiate contact with an opponent. It looks like he's trying to drive his shoulder. He's got his head out in front. It's up a little bit. I think this is just not a foul.
With you on that timeout on the field, but 4.5 to go.
Rip. Hey, easy. Hey, cactus. We still good. Rip. Yeah. Right for team. Blue 80.
And right now we have a timeout. Hey, Tony, thank you so much.
All right.
Football Night in America coming up. We will see you a lot during the season.
See you opening night.
As always.
In Philadelphia.
Apparently we're throwing you out there
now. All right. Great to be with you. A lot of fun.
Tony Dungy, it's an annual tradition now. Third quarter and most of the fourth in the Hall of Fame game. 17-10, Baltimore on top with 4.5 to go in the fourth quarter. And yes, they do play overtime in preseason.
We're going to get out of here. What's up?
Into the 34-yard line goes Wims for a first down.
Yeah, we're seeing some guys making plays. Javon Wims, a guy that has been doing okay, and Tyler Bray's done okay. He's made some nice throws out here.
Bray 14 of 25 for 145 yards. And he fires over the middle, and that's caught. Sliding grab by DeMarcus Ayers, who's had a very busy night. That's 5 catches for him.
Yeah, we went to the practice the other day, and Tyler Bray is a big guy, 6'6", and Chase Daniels, 6 feet tall, maybe, standing right next to him. So 2 very different looking quarterbacks throwing the ball.
And that's tipped at the line of scrimmage to make it second down, 2nd and 10.
Just wonder, how's a 6'6" guy get a ball tipped like that? But I guess everybody does.
Just throw sidearm, you got a good chance of it.
Well, but it seems like somehow, Al, our games always come down to the wire, don't they?
They do. The 3 Super Bowls we've done together,
I know,
have all come down to the end. What we went through with our boy Dan Masonson the other day, some of the games that we have done as we started our 10th year together. Bray throws, and that's caught, and getting away and getting inside the 10-yard line, going all the way to the end zone is Tanner Gentry. And the Chicago Bears are a point away from a tie game.
Hey, just a little hitch route on the outside. Question is, was he down? Was he contacted when he was on one knee? It's looked like it, but maybe not. That's got to be.
Yeah, look at that. Well, all scoring plays are reviewed. So they're looking at that. Don't need to challenge
play will be reviewed.
Because it's a scoring play, so that's automatic. And let us welcome in Andrea Kramer, our longtime sideline reporter.
Hi, guys.
Hey, 2000.
I'm in a different place.
You
but I feel like I was never away.
You used to have to be down there where it's cold and rainy and everything.
That's right. I like it. I'm sitting and everything. I'm at the same height as people. I can look them in the eye.
Andrea has won the Pete Rozelle Award, which is only the second woman. Leslie Visser would be the other.
Pretty good company.
Oh, yeah. And you will be honored at the dinner tomorrow night. Congratulations. That's
Thank
fantastic.
You. And the first working mom to be in the Hall of Fame.
Brought your son. I saw him
Your
again.
bouncing baby boy is about 6'10" right
my
now.
My kid, as you always
Your
like
kid?
to call him. Right, last time you saw him, he was up to your waist. He's looking at you in the eye now.
I know.
Oh, that's
But
terrific.
it's pretty special. It
That's
really
great.
is. It's and you know, of course, coming back here, it's old home week. Not only seeing all the terrific people on NBC, but you know, some of my producers and coworkers from ESPN. I mean, I'm like you. I've worked at pretty much every network, so you know somebody just everywhere you go. But it's pretty amazing.
You've done some fantastic work, of course, on Real Sports as well. What's up next for you over there?
Right now, I've got a story airing on a guy you'll probably be seeing at some point, Dr. Duvernay-Tardif.
Right.
Touchdown by contact. Ruling on the field has changed. Ball be placed at the 20-yard line. Third down. Please reset the clock to 3:39, please. 3:39.
No touchdown. How dare Walt Coleman interrupt you? But anyway.
No, for Real Sports, it's a story on Kansas City Chiefs, hit the guard, who is the only active NFL player to be a medical doctor. So just profiled him, and
fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You know, great. I mean, that's what my career has been about, telling stories. I look at the Hall of Fame class. I don't know. Does it mean you've gotten really old when you've covered just about everybody that's being inducted? Well, not Robert Brazil, thank goodness, but you know, known
Jerry
Bobby
Kramer.
Beathard, yeah, or Jerry
Yeah,
Kramer, thank
Jerry
God.
saved you.
And he spells his name wrong, by the way. But
that's right.
But you know, certainly Randy Moss and Ray, and really, you know, stories on all these guys.
Oh, you do a magnificent job. I love your work on Real Sports is incredible. 3rd down and 6 from the 20-yard line as they called it back. And the Bears send us to overtime, perhaps. Incomplete here, intended for Wims. But life is good, right?
Life is good. Real Sports do stuff for the NFL Network, co-host a show on CBS Sports Network, the only all-female sports show, which is just fun. And you know, hey, this just in, guys, women can talk about sports too. What do you know?
What do you know?
But it's really good. I teach at Boston University, so and getting ready to T-minus 16 days to the college launch. Sending a kid off to college, that's not for the faint of heart, believe me.
And across the country too, to the University of Washington.
Shane, you get in a plug for everybody, Al. I love it. I love it.
That's me.
Great. He's going to be in your territory. He's going to go back out west.
Mr. Promo. 4th down and 6, and they convert to the 10-yard line. That's Wims making the catch. He's had a big night. That's 7 catches for 90 yards and a 1st and goal.
Great job by Bray here. He's going to see everybody coming on the blitz here, which means one-on-one, man-to-man coverage down the field. Get it out of your hands and convert it.
Bray surveys, throws, caught, touchdown. So that is Tanner Gentry. Had one taken away. They get it back, and now an extra point away. So will he go for 2 here is the question.
And the Ravens were begging for a push-off here. Let's take a look. There's a little bit of a shove, and no call, though. Give it on that one for Williams.
And he will go for 2. They keep the offense on the field. Preseason game. Going for, well, you'd say the victory, but there's still plenty of time left. 2-point attempt. Come up in the eye for the first time in the game. And off play action. Look out. Bray fires. Incomplete. Andrea, we're so proud of you. Great to see you as always.
Wonderful to see you, Chris. Amazing. Thank you.
Wow. Rosella Award winner Andrea Kramer. Back after this. And we wind this one down in a 1-point game. Will Chicago try an onside kick? They've got all of their timeouts.
I would think they kick it deep here. So they just want to work on something.
Right. Parkey sends that one through the end zone. And the McCann Award winner going to French journalist. She's working with the Pro Football Talk with Mike Florio and the gang. And our congratulations to Shireen. Well, the gang's all back. 10 years for you and me. Fred Gaudelli in his 18th season, counting Monday night. Drew Essergoff, 19. Kelly Hayes and George Hill, 73 with me. After tonight's game, Kelly, he wants a vacation. We've got to keep track of like 537 plays.
Well, he's working hard.
Yep.
For once.
Why not? Lamar Jackson. He's been in there the whole second half. He is 4 out of 10 for 32 yards. And they start on the ground to chew up some clock and make Chicago use its timeouts as Mark Thompson takes it for a gain of 1.
You know, Al, it's way too early to draw conclusions here about anybody in this game. But for Lamar Jackson, okay tonight, but certainly nobody's going to watch this game and go, oh, we got to get Joe Flacco out of there, right? I mean, it's just not going to happen. RG3, I thought, was a little more advanced, got a little better offensive line in front of him, all those kinds of things, more veteran of the wide receivers. But there's work to do. And I think that for the Ravens, the best thing that could happen to them is to allow Lamar Jackson to sit and watch for a while. How long that takes, whether or not he ever takes over for Joe Flacco, you know, who knows? But I would say as of today, not much of a quarterback controversy.
Oh, and John Harbaugh was pretty explicit about that. Jackson will keep it himself. Get wrapped up at the 30. It'll be third down. They take another timeout. Well, Tom Benson, this used to be known as Fawcett Stadium for years, and then Tom Benson spent a lot of money to reconstruct it, put a lot of money into the Hall of Fame, and Tom, of course, passed away, the longtime owner of the New Orleans Saints earlier this year, but his legacy will live on. Super Bowl championship in the post-Katrina years in New Orleans to help revitalize that city. Did a lot for the game of football.
Yeah, and this place is incredible right now. I barely recognized it when we came in. So many changes, so many improvements. If you have not been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, take the time, check it out. David Baker and company have done a great job here.
And handoff here will go nowhere, so they stop him. It's a 3 and out. And Chicago will use its final timeout, and they also get a break at the 2-minute warning. Hey, speaking of the Hall of Fame, our congratulations to our good buddy Bob Costas.
Yeah, baseball.
Yep, Baseball Hall of Fame last weekend in Cooperstown.
Mr. Baseball.
Oh, yeah.
He loved it. You guys actually called a game together, didn't you?
We did for the MLB Network back in, I think, 2011. We did a Giants-Mets game in San Francisco.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And who did play-by-play and who did color?
No, we did both. We flipped. We did 4.5 innings each, and the other guy did color. I'll never forget when I was working with Howard Cosell, we're doing baseball, and Bob Costas came into the booth. This is like in '83. And Bob introduced himself to Howard, and Howard says, I know who you are. You're the kid who rhapsodizes about the infield fly rule. 11-yard line. The punt is taken there by DeMarcus Ayers. Flag is thrown. Actually, it's been for a Hall of Fame game relatively penalty free. I mean, 11 total accepted penalties in the game. We've done a few of these where they've had about 30.
During the return, illegal block in the back, number 2 of the return team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Zach Miller, the tight end of the Chicago Bears, of course, he was involved in that terrible injury that he incurred in New Orleans last year. Several surgeries, and 9 of them, in fact, will not play this year. And I guess he maybe holds out hope at some point, but let's put it this way. It's an amazing recovery that he made, because they were scared to death about not just his leg that day, but his life.
Yeah, and there's so many stories of guys getting cut unceremoniously, and the Chicago Bears, let's give them credit. Don't know if you're ever going to see Zach playing football again, but he's back around the organization, getting paid as he should. You know, he sacrificed a great deal for the Bears, and I'm glad to see him still part of that family.
From the 14 now, Bray throws into a traffic jam. 2nd and 10.
It's a nice job here by Kenny Young right here. Is going to come out and be able to sniff this one out. You want to get that first play going. I always think of Tom Brady in the Super Bowl that one year in New Orleans. You know, let's get a play or 2, 3 or 4 yards, see if we can get a first down, and then start the drive. And that's what they're trying to do right now here for the Chicago Bears.
Bray throws it right into the Chicago bench. 6 seconds until the 2-minute warning, and it's 3rd down and 10.
You know, I just can't help but think, okay, we're getting a chance to see the Bears here.
Right.
When we see them on opening night against the Green Bay Packers, nothing we've seen here is going to even slightly resemble, not the offensive style of play, not the players that are on the field. And you're also going to have a month plus before that game is played. I'd be really anxious to see the growth.
A lot of players you're seeing tonight won't be seen in Green Bay tonight either. Right. 3rd and 10. Bray gets jostled, and then the pass is incomplete, intended for Thompson, and that takes us to the 2-minute warning. So it'll be 4th down and 10. Our next preseason game will come your way on the 26th of August. We're going to be doing the Arizona-Dallas game. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears schedule is right there. Green Bay is the Sunday nighter. Seattle is a Monday nighter. And a late afternoon game because they're in Arizona. And then almost every other game on that schedule is at noon Central Time after that.
Well, I tell you, that was a very winnable play that time by Tyler Bray. He took a big shot, and that should have been a 1st down. The ball just slipped through the fingers of Colin Thompson, I think it was. But he really hung in there, and all the flags we've seen thrown tonight, who knows that could have been. But watch this. Watch him hang in here, deliver this ball, and it really hits the receiver right in the hands. I think that's going to be a penalty as well.
But not called.
No.
Eric Weddle with his Stanley Cup beard right there.
Tell you what.
Yeah, that's a beauty, isn't it?
It is a beauty. He's proud of that one. But 6 interceptions. Yeah, go on. Show it out. 10 interceptions since he's gotten here the last 2 years.
Heck of a player.
Smart guy. That's what you need at that safety position.
Started his career with the Chargers. All kinds of action. Going for it on 4th and 10.
Full start, number 14, offense. 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
And that's going to make it 4th down and 15 now.
You know what the most bizarre part is? Usually when you're playing wide receiver, you cannot hear the snap count.
Right.
And then you get in a stadium like this, and you can hear everything, and now the wide receiver jumps offside.
Pretty quiet, all things considered, tonight. And certainly at the moment, as most of the folks have worked their way back to Interstate 77. 4th and 15. Chicago can run out the clock if they stop them here, and they will. Which enables us to bring in one Terry McCauley. Outstanding referee over the years. Always loved when Terry worked the game. You know, it was in good hands. You didn't wear makeup, right, when you were on the field?
I did not.
But you had a mic.
This is a first for me.
You're right. We had Audrey Mansfield. She's the best. So the helmet rule. Of course, everybody's talking about it right now. Just your thoughts on what you've seen here tonight.
I'm leery to speculate because the rule is so simply written, but can expand so far depending on how it's applied. I think what they've been told to do is just throw. You know, in the preseason, just throw. They're going to take a library of plays and try and hopefully by the time we get to Philadelphia, week 1, they'll have a really good understanding of what they want as a foul and what isn't.
A couple of plays from tonight we'll take a look at because the Ravens can just run the clock out right now and win the game by a point. This one was called.
Yeah, and I think we called hit on a defenseless receiver there, which means he's looking for forcible contact to the head and neck area. This is the use of the helmet that Walt did announce. And we've had 4 of these. So we've had 2 use of the helmets he announced and 2 unnecessary roughness fouls. And I think they got the use of the helmet right, as you and Chris both said.
That's rare.
That's why you're here.
Oh.
The onus is on you this year, you know.
Oh, yeah, we're handing off everything this year.
Well, whatever. I've been there before.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
let them beat me up. I can.
Oh yeah, that's why you're here, because we're finished speculating.
We're gonna second guess the heck out of you.
Where
were you in the Super Bowl? That's what I want to know.
Well, let's hope that Corey Clements play. Let's just hope that's the standard, and I think we saw it earlier today for catches. We'll talk about the new rule later. Probably maybe in Dallas we'll have something like that.
Right.
But if that's the standard, I think everybody's going to be happier. Fans, coaches, players, announcers, and probably me too.
Well, this will end the game. Terry, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Al.
You can enjoy the little traveling on the road with us. We'll see you in Dallas in about 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, this one is over here in Canton, Ohio, as the Baltimore Ravens win it by a score of 17-16. And that will do it for the Hall of Fame game. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed all the chit-chat with this great class of 2018.